Doghill was our neighborhood on Mount Pleasant Road, Waycross, Georgia. Our gang, the Doghill Gang, consisted of Greg Slick Griffin,
There he is.
James Cocke, Ray Herrin, Johnny Bennett, and my brother Dave Griffin and I.
Something in the water taught me how to crawl. Something in the water taught me how to fall. Something in my blood.
There we go.
Oh,
There we go.
Lord, that's a sign.
It's either his approval or disapproval.
That is a sign. Y'all, I'm going to the house.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
I wish we'd have had that on here. Oh, we do. He's already recording.
Oh, are we?
And with that, welcome to a special Something in the Water podcast. I'm Uncle Dave Griffin. Sean Clark is not with us tonight because we didn't have enough room, actually. We have.
Plus, he's not a member of the Doghill Gang, so there you go.
And there it is, folks. This is a Doghill Gang special episode.
Absolutely.
And here we have them, the original Doghill Gang, including our dear, departed, loved one, Greg Griffin.
Greg Slick.
Right here. Greg Slick Griffin.
He's here in spirit.
He's here in spirit, by golly.
He's right here in the room.
He's here in picture, right here. That was one of his wife. Well, actually, that one right there
The best
was
body block man in
one
history.
of his favorite. Well, one of her favorite pictures.
You can see his hot body block coming from 10 foot away.
The rolling body block.
Greg's been gone a month or
July 25th.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Other than Johnny Bennett, he's
Well, actually, this is people are watching this on October 1st, so it's been a little longer than
that's right.
6 weeks. But
it
still,
was late July, wasn't it?
it was July the 25th when I got the text from James.
And I got the text, and I was sitting there in my little, I call it studio, but it's just a little junk room that I was painting. And I got the text from Joey, his brother, and another dog healer. And I tell you, I ain't cried in a long time.
Yeah,
And I couldn't help it.
I know it.
Diane was at the store, and when she come back, she knew what had happened.
Just for the record, Greg Griffin and Johnny Bennett are the only two dog healers on the other side right now, and we four remain
Absolutely.
on this mortal plane.
Yeah. Yeah. And
We hanging in there like a hair on a biscuit.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, that was it. The origins of the Doghill Gang stretch way back. Doghill was actually Mount Pleasant Road in Waycross, Georgia, and that has a tale of its own. But our Uncle Vance, our mother's brother, came to live in our backyard in a mobile home. I guess this was the 60s, in the 60s. And
Late 60s.
yeah.
Vance would have been 25 years old.
Yeah, he was single man, and
He had moved there from the farm, the solitude of Brantley County.
yeah, our granddaddy had passed away in '66, I believe, and we moved our grandmother into our backyard mobile home, and then Vance came to live with his mama back there.
Well, what about Royce, his brother, Bud?
He's passed away now.
I mean, but didn't he live there too?
No.
he stayed around.
He
our
often
life.
visited.
I'm gonna tell you this: my bedroom was close to y'all's carport, and about 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, Vance would pull up.
Royce.
No, Vance,
Okay.
and he would go back there to his place.
Yeah.
And then about 4 or 5 in the morning, here come Bud pulling up.
Yeah. It was
Bud was
convertible.
Royce.
He was older and wilier.
Yeah, Bud had a
I think
convertible always.
He did use
our house?
No,
Or
probably
Grandma's
Grandma and Vance's trailer. As you know, it had 3 bedrooms, I think. So he did use it as a convenient.
I can remember
place.
coming in at night and hearing them.
That could be.
But again, back to
Yeah,
Vance.
once Vance started living back there on Mount Pleasant Road, he had a remark about he couldn't get to sleep every night because the incessant barking of the dogs
Lots of.
on Mount
There
Pleasant
were
Road.
a lot of dogs.
A lot of dogs.
We were probably used to the barking, but
Back before the leash laws, they were running loose.
I think every household had 2.1
Well,
dogs.
let's talk about that. What was your dog's names, James?
Good gosh, I
Is Mike okay?
did a.
You want to push that a little more towards his mouth there? There you go. Just push the mic, angle it. There you go. There we go. Okay, go.
I did a little painting kind of thing of the dogs that I had.
Heaven's Dog Hill.
And my
That's
gosh,
right.
there was a list as long as a grocery list.
I remembered some of them.
And Dave said, "Well, you didn't put Sport on there." And that was their dog. And
Yeah.
Those were just yours.
these were just mine. And then I remembered, hell, we had a dog named Sport too, and I didn't put him on the list. So, but
Well, you did. You had the ones that I can recall were Rex,
Corky,
Corky,
Trigger.
Smut, and Tojo.
Tojo. Yeah.
that's right. That's right.
Trigger was one I remember.
Yes, but
Tojo was the one you drove all the way around the block one time trying to tire him out, and he followed you all the way around
Twice
the block.
around.
once.
Once.
that.
The preacher telling another one
Why'd you want to tire him out?
because he started following us to town.
Yeah.
and I knew he was going to get killed. So
Okay.
so we had a plan to tire him out. And when we come by the house, he looked at that house and we went on around and he turned around and went back to the house.
One time got him.
And he lived.
Yeah.
So it was a Caesar moment.
It was.
The dog
What about
whisperer.
yours?
I had a lot of stray dogs coming up. And that's where we would get them all, and I would just go ahead and name them. I had one named Sam. I had pictures of me and Sam. And then I started getting Chihuahuas. Well, what happened was where the Chihuahuas come into my life was when my daddy passed away. I about drove my mama crazy asking her questions all the time about like what was he eating in dinner in heaven and stuff. And so she went and told the doctors, that I was about to drive her crazy. And they said, buy him a Chihuahua. And that's the truth. So I still got a Chihuahua at the house. I've had Chihuahuas forever. In fact, I've had 3 little bits. Every time we had one, we'd rename it Little Bit.
Little bit one.
Yeah,
Wonder why
we got third Little
wonder
Bit.
why they went with Chihuahua over all the other breeds.
I don't know.
I have heard that Chihuahuas, if you got asthma, you would get you a
Yeah.
Chihuahua. I've heard that to be
I never had not
definite.
been without a
It
Chihuahua.
might be something to do with grief and
Yeah.
trauma.
But, most of the dogs were stray around Mount Pleasant Road. They just showed up and people took to them,
All right,
Well-
Dave. What about our dogs? We had one at a time usually.
Yeah. I really don't remember an early dog except that one that we tried to get in Tripoli.
Okay,
Prior to that, I don't recall before
you-
Tripoli if we had a dog. or
I
not.
was very young. You were barely here.
Yeah.
You were 1 or 2, but we had Poochie.
Poochie.
Then we got Moochie.
Moochie. And Moochie, I do remember them names now.
And I think they both got
Just
hit
made me
by
feel
cars.
good all over hearing them.
I don't remember them.
So
Then
it
we
must
had,
be subliminal.
Then we had a big white dog named Silver Chief.
Golly. Yeah.
And he actually belonged to us and our neighbors, the Cheshires, who were our first
yeah.
cousins.
Yeah.
Our aunt and her husband.
Gene
And
Cheshire
Stanley and Wanda were our first cousins.
and his azalea
And
bush.
Silver Chief belonged to both families, I guess.
Why they ain't a whole lot of pictures of them
And
dogs?
he was a very good dog in the mold of Old Yeller and Rin Tin Tin.
Was he like
He pulled us both out of ponds when we were drowning. I don't guess.
was he like a German Shepherd or something?
He was probably a mixed breed. He looked a lot like a Labrador, but not really. And he was white and solid white. And he got hit by a car too. Our dogs like to chase cars.
Yeah.
Mount Pleasant Road was a dirt road, very muddy when it rained.
Speaking of Gene, I remember Gene always would walk out of his front door and go behind the azalea bushes and drink his liquor, and everybody in the neighborhood seen him. Yeah. And he would walk out and he'd look around first to see if anybody was watching him, and he'd go in them azaleas right behind the porch there, and you could see him turn a bottle up and hide it back down in the azaleas and go back in the house.
That was our Uncle Gene. I'll point out he wasn't our blood uncle.
Well, before we get any further, we hadn't even introduced our guest outside of the Doghill Gang. Two of them y'all have seen already before. This is Billy Ray Herrin, sitting on the couch here, and owner of Hickory Wind Music Store. And he's been on the podcast a couple of times. This is James Cocke. He was on a very recent podcast, and he lives in Valdosta now and has taken up painting. You can find his stuff at James Cocke Art.
And the reason
on Facebook.
The reason I think it's so special, I'm laughing because I can't carry a tune in a bucket, so I can't play anything. And I was homebound and I couldn't go anywhere, so I got a paint set and wound up enjoying it and loving it. But a lot of it looks like I painted it, but I'm painting from a perspective of a blind person. I'm legally blind. But
it looks good though. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think it's folk art.
Plus, let me correct you. You actually did grow from the North Country pretty good back in the early days.
Do what now?
You learned to play "Girl from the North Country" by Bob Dylan.
Well,
it's the only song you ever learned, but you did it okay. And now the timing was a little off, but Bob Dylan's timing was off anyway.
I used to play with y'all, and I remember sitting around, and as long as y'all were strumming, I was strumming. I could keep up with y'all. When y'all would quit, I'd have to quit because nothing come natural to me about that.
Well, and our third and final guest on the podcast is my brother, Gary Tick Griffin, who is retired from managing editor of the Waycross Journal-Herald, and is now a pastor of 3 Methodist churches, all in Pearson, in and around Pearson.
How does he do that?
So I just want to say this is a very special episode for me.
Absolutely.
And as you've already watched the first 10, 15 minutes, we're going to ramble. We're going to ramble a lot. But
four of us have made it through.
Four of us have lived to right. We're all pushing 70. Some of us have made it already. Gary was the oldest of the group.
Yeah.
Born November 23rd, 1950. Greg came next.
2 months later.
January
24th.
Yeah.
That's
1951.
Right.
James was February 18th, shared a birthday with mine and Gary's
mom. Well, actually,
mama.
Johnny was older than James.
Johnny was. Yeah, we're leaving Johnny Bennett out.
He was older than James.
Johnny Bennett's been deceased quite a long
2009.
time.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
Yeah.
I don't remember his birthday.
James was February 18th, 1952.
October 29, 52.
October 29th,
So you're the
52. And
youngest
then I
one.
came in September 1st, 53.
Yeah.
So that's how the hierarchy arranged out. And, Lord, we had some times. That was the best. Mount Pleasant Road was it was a heavenly haven. It was ideal back in those days. Everything was
really
perfect about it.
special.
It was so special.
Well, I'll tell you how
I've talked to
special it
other
was.
people in their neighborhoods.
I had a first cousin from Myrtle Beach that preached at my mama's funeral, and he talked about, because he was our age, Gene. And Gene said, he said, people now go to Disneyland or Disney World vacation. He said, when I was a kid living in Myrtle Beach too now, this before Myrtle Beach was a big tourist town. He said, instead of Disney World, we went to Aunt May's. because there was so much on Mount Pleasant Road to get into. That was like the vacation part. And I never thought about it till he said it, you know. But we had something constantly. As soon as you got up in the morning, there was something going on. And it was mostly at your house.
Yep, everybody come down. I can remember, and Greg was telling me this. He said his dad worked at the railroad on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Dad want to sleep in, and he'd hear knock, 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 and it'd be Johnny Bennett.
Johnny Bennett waking everybody up.
Big Joe would be running him off.
I remember Johnny waking me up with matches in my window at the house. I look at her and he'd be waving matches in the dark.
In the dark.
One morning I woke up and I rolled over and I looked over and Johnny's laying beside me on the floor. He's not making a noise, but he was ready for me to wake up.
He broke in.
Yeah, he broke in. We didn't lock the doors.
We didn't lock our doors.
That's true. That was
You
one of
did
the things.
Well, the windows were open too. Cause
the windows.
We didn't have AC in
We
the
didn't have
beginning.
AC.
The boys told me, they said, Dad, you wasn't worried about burglars? I said, son, the only thing that kept me from falling out the window was them little hooks on the screen because I'd be laying in that window trying to get some cool air.
Yeah, that's some of my best memories is going to sleep in that old house. Concrete block, so it was naturally cooler with that concrete block.
Let me tell you a little story about all them houses on the road. A lot of y'all probably don't know
Built by
this.
the same person.
My
Buck
daddy
Lansing.
and my uncle built every house, all the way down to Sylvia Peterson's. That was the last house they built.
Buck Latsey was your uncle.
No, it was Uncle Harry, and my daddy. He had a real estate company called Herrin Real Estate, and they somewhere in history, I don't know, they bought properties all along Mount Pleasant Road, and they would build houses. And Harry would live in some, and we lived in the house the Thorntons lived in first, while Daddy built the house that we ended up in.
Uh-huh.
And Harry would live in different houses as he built the houses. He built y'all's house and built your house.
Well, I know this.
Well, they were also different. The
Yeah.
houses were.
Well, my granddaddy, when he bought our house, he bought JR's house, Gary and Dave's house.
Did he?
He bought ML's house.
I didn't
and
know
he bought
Lorraine's house?
Lorena and her husband's house.
And sold them all to him?
Big Granny did?
Yes, and he
We
he-
bought them all from him.
he financed
knew
them to
that.
them because I remember
Yeah.
at certain times that during my life when they would come over and say, "This is our last payment to you, Mr. Lotz." That's
Back
Well-
then, a house payment might have been $42 a
Well,
month.
my daddy did the same thing with the Thorntons. When he built our house, he financed James in that house.
You know,
So I guess
Norma
people did
Jean
that back then.
Latsey and Sandy Latsey, they used to tell me, my daddy built y'all's house.
No,
Buck Latsey.
well. See,
I
Buck,
didn't know any different.
Buck and ML, they added on our back
Well, they-
bedroom.
there was a
that
lot of
was it.
add-on
They
now.
Yeah.
The central part of y'all's house, Harry built.
Right.
And
And,
then-
and
then
ML
One
and
who added on to ours, we had that carport added on very early on.
This is the most scintillating
Conversation.
episode y'all had.
Yeah, all you people, you got to keep listening because the best is yet to come.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but this is just the foundation. Now,
We're
pay
laying the
attention.
foundation.
Pay attention. Our house was almost at the top of Mount Pleasant Road on the
Yeah, James
south
was on,
side.
James was on
Next
the hill.
door,
Was the hill.
James and Mr. Lotz and Mrs. Lotz, his grandparents, they lived on the very peak of Mount Pleasant
The
Road.
hill.
Oh, we didn't never
know.
finish the Vance story. Vance couldn't sleep. Our Uncle Vance couldn't sleep because of all the dogs barking. So he was the one that named Mount Pleasant Road Doghill. And we did grow up, James grew up right on top of the hill.
Well, he named.
Yeah.
And so it became Doghill from Uncle Vance, and we claimed it.
Well, he actually
Yeah, we
called.
were teenagers by then, I guess.
But he
Probably
called
so.
us Doghill Gang on a radio program. Don't you remember? That's where the term come from. He actually said Doghill Gang
What radio program?
Well, he would
Something-
go down there when Chris Crosby
because he would
was
speak on the radio once. in a
Chris
while.
Crosby was
Oh,
his
yeah.
friend. He was
Yeah, he
afternoon
actually
DJ
said it on
at
the radio.
WCL.
That's where y'all picked it up.
What would Vance's monologue be?
I don't know.
Well,
Well,
Tom James and Shondale.
But here's
you
the
know,
funny
he's a
thing.
CBer, so it would have been in his CB voice. Yeah. Well, it's a spring day down here in South Georgia. It's dang near 78 degrees. He'd be
His song
talking to
goes
some
out.
Yankee on the
His song
CB.
goes out to my wife, pot liquor.
And Vance is our mother's youngest brother. He's about 80 years old this year, I think.
He's easing in there.
Vance
Yeah.
Carter.
He's the last one of those siblings left.
Yeah. But anyhow, so Gary being the oldest, and that put us 50 to 53, just 3 years or less separating all of us. And as we grew, we experienced everything, just about everything that every other kid born in those years did, but it was something more to it with us because of the closeness that we had, and
I agree.
we did the whole going to the show, going to the movies and stuff, and coming home and reenacting it out in the backyard of James's house. James was the house that
pasture.
we all gravitated to. We listened to, there was a lot of firsts that I had in that house. We listened to records over there. We'd play over there. We'd try to write books over there.
Coldest water I've ever drank under that shelter in the hot sun.
Played sports in the back pasture.
Something about that water in that under that shelter.
That was some good water.
Cold, clear water. and first beer, first cigarette, all them kind
All
of
that.
things you go through and through childhood. you
First
know.
taste of liquor.
Yes, sir.
It all happened with us, and
The pasture.
we dealt with it and met it head on.
You know, while we gravitated to James's house, I think discipline there was kind of slack compared to our houses, right?
Of course.
Well,
I mean, he had a good upbringing. He had mother that really cared and grandparents that really cared. But I guess maybe did they go to bed early or something?
They were just old, you know.
well, little
And
granny,
we got away with more over there.
little
So I
granny
guess-
thought James could do no wrong anyway.
Yeah.
And she was right.
Mr. and Miss Lotch. This was a term of endearment, but that James grew up with, called his grandmother Little Granny, and she was little compared to her husband. He was a big old towering man, but his name was Big Granny. So that was unusual for us as kids, I think, but we latched on to it too. And Big Granny and Little Granny. Now, both of y'all shared the same history as far as your fathers
Yeah,
died.
mine died when I
At
was
a young
6, and
age,
James
too.
died when he was 4 or 5, wasn't
Yeah.
4. And how old were you?
he? Yeah, 6.
6. Okay.
So there was that.
To the contrary, our daddy's still alive.
Yeah.
He-
Our daddy is going to
He
be
turned
95.
95 on
Yeah.
September 14th.
14th. That's right.
Genetics,
Amazing.
buddy. Y'all probably got it in you.
So getting back to
Hope
that,
so.
that was the dynamic that led us to James's house most all of the time, was that we had strict discipline if we stayed under our house roof, and we go over to James's. It was like everything's cool.
Well, they
hop
left us alone.
Hop that picket fence, and it was
They
like
left us alone. We
They're
were in the
playing.
back of the house.
Well, you know,
right?
the athletics was probably the medium of it all. Because as soon as we were able to get out in that pasture, we were playing sports. of
yeah,
some
it ain't
kind.
like we were going to James's house
No.
to sin and debauchery or anything. Yeah. We went over there
At
because
'Cause we played everything.
we played sports.
Everything.
But I will say this, in the very back room back there, if we wanted to get out after dark,
Yeah.
I had an old turntable, and I'd put about 6 or 8 albums on that thing, and
Put the speakers in the window.
and turn that thing on loud, and we'd lock the door, and we'd go out the back door.
Yeah.
And little grannies thought we was back there listening to music. So
Because
Yeah, I got you.
never did anything wrong.
that's right. That's right. But yeah, we played soccer before anybody thought soccer
We had
was cool.
soccer, played all the sports back there.
Soccer wore me out.
Yeah, we
Nothing
even
but
played
running.
a game inside your living room one time, a football or baseball game, wasn't
Certainly brought about by rain,
it? Yeah,
and we that didn't stop us.
yeah.
We took the rolled up newspaper for the bat, and I guess we crunched a newspaper ball together and
Taped it up.
taped it around, and that was the ball. And
You remember
That
what?
wasn't one newspaper. It was a month's worth of newspapers.
You remember what the home base was?
that thick.
Was James's?
well, home plate was your husband. That
Yeah.
little pillow with the arms on it
That was
that you
the
could
home
lay in bed. We stuck that right in front of the front door, inside the front door. And that was the umpire, and that was a
strike zone.
Strike zone.
The batter sat next to it with
I remember
the
one.
newspaper bat.
I remember one year we all got into playing poker. We didn't have no money, but we used empty. We had somebody would give us a bunch of little candy bags, little paper candy bags, and we used them as our money. And we played poker with the candy bags. You remember that at Greg's
don't remember.
on Greg's screen porch?
Oh,
You remember doing that?
I can't
I
remember.
can't remember that one.
we destroyed some property too.
Well, we'd fix
Well,
it
with
back
that-
up before the
With
day
that
was over.
indoor baseball game, we
Yeah.
busted up somebody's china cabinet. I guess little granny's.
I still have it at the house, and one of the panels on the side is still missing.
The china cabinet.
When I get rich, I'm gonna have that piece of glass fixed. But when I get rich,
We played some game over at Greg. Greg's house was shaded by several big trees, and you could go into his house.
But his house was in a circle. Remember, the entire house run a circle.
Yeah.
Yep. And from the living
doorway
room, you
went
could.
to the kitchen.
It was a circular hallway through the bathroom, kitchen, and back around.
Each
But
room
we could
connected
close
by
them curtains, the drapes all around Greg's house, and close off the bedroom doors where it was nothing but living room, kitchen, and that hallway.
Yeah.
And it was a game of tag, I think, with coasters.
Something I know.
So hard rubber coasters.
yep, it was. You slung them like a frisbee.
like I say, some property was destroyed.
Somebody standing on that telephone stool
Hey,
you always-
in the hallway.
Here's the
we
thing: you
were
always
not
knew.
just 8 or 9. We were
No, we
13
got to
or
be 12 or 13.
well, you
by
always
then,
knew there was a point where you had to stop and clean up and fix everything. It was like it was
before the parents got
like
home.
30 minutes before everybody come home. We'd clean up and fix up, and like nothing happened.
Yeah, there was, I think, a picture of Greg when he was a baby that hung
We tried that
in
at
one of
y'all's
the
house.
bedrooms, and that picture was destroyed. Greg threw it in the woods before the parents got home.
And nobody
As the
ever
weeks
said,
went by, some conversation. Whatever happened to that picture of Greg? And Greg was like,
But now the
You
one,
got me.
Hey, the one person we couldn't get over on trying to clean the house up after a big party was your daddy.
"Oh man,
Your
that was-
daddy would walk in and know.
He walked in that
I,
day.
thank goodness I wasn't there for any of that. It was y'all.
Lord,
I hadn't moved on. I was in the Air
That
Force, and y'all were.
That was that military. your dad. He couldn't-
73. And they had borrowed your van, which I took over the payments on when you went to,
VW van.
yeah, when you went to Cornwall. And I ended up buying the van, and they borrowed it to go to Ohio one summer.
To see
And,
Daddy's brother.
Yep. And they weren't supposed to be back as soon as they were.
They came back a day or two early.
They came back a day early.
was there any beer cans laying in the
It
floor?
was the morning after that party we had there. There was beer cans all over the house. And my bedroom at that time was way in there where the washer and dryer was at the back door.
And there was
And I remember hearing that van, that Volkswagen engine putter up, down, and I jumped out of bed in my underwear, ran through the kitchen, grabbed the trash can, and was standing at the piano, raking my arm down with beer cans and stuff into the trash can when they walked in the door.
but it was
And
a lost cause. wasn't
Deb
it?
and Mama was first, and Mama was like, "Hey." And Daddy came in right behind her, and he already had a frown on his face.
Did he say, "Hey"?
No, he did not. He just had that frown on his face. He looked at me. I looked at him in my underwear, and had the trash can in his hand. It's like he knew something was wrong. Then he did a walkthrough.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't there a significant cigarette burn on the
Yeah,
carpet?
there was one. I
We tried to put a chair on top of it, but that was found.
What was the den of sin?
Yeah, there was
comment?
a black light on the mantelpiece of the fireplace in the front room, and all of that stuff was still there because I thought I had 24 hours.
Yeah, he probably planned that to come home earlier.
Well, it happened more than once. I think.
I don't know. That was enough to steer me right.
They called us down at the Waddell cottages one time.
In
we
Fernandina
we were
Beach.
down there.
Remember that? You had a good throw though. That was a good throw you made.
That was that was not JR and them. That was
Mac and them, Big Mac. And
I was on the fishing out there on the surf when they drove up, and Savita says, "Look, James is fishing. That's just like him. That's till they got up there and seen what we was into. But that what you talking about? We had rented a cottage for probably a week." And there was some stuff in there that we might have not have should have had, and maybe a green leafy bag.
yeah.
And
But your athletic ability come through on it.
one of the fellas that we knew in town had visited us,
Right.
and Mac King saw him leave,
Yeah.
and when he left, he came over there because this fella had a kind of a shady reputation,
Right.
and
Who was it? I mean, you can whisper it.
it was old Robert Lee,
There we go.
And,
he was gone.
and I was standing on the back side of two double beds,
Yeah.
and right when you come in the door was a little coffee table with a open bag laying there, and the next thing I hear is the screen door opening on the cottage, and here come 6'4" Matt King in that door, and I looked around and there was a white towel laying on the bed. I took and I throwed that towel across the room,
Yes, sir.
and right there at Mac's hand, and that thing just covered that bag. It looked like it was
we go.
supposed to be there. That's the best throw I ever made.
Training from the pasture days. See?
And he says, "What's that boy doing in here? I know he's up to no good." And he was standing there giving us the devil, and we was, "I don't know, what are you talking about?" That saved our bacon right there.
The Waddell cottages.
The old what they call it.
Yeah,
I think
They were 75 square feet. The whole,
Yeah.
it was smaller than this room. The whole
I
unit.
think there was $35 a week, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the shower you could look up had no ceiling
The
on it.
shower was out back. There were walls, but no ceiling.
I'll tell you
It
the
was
funny
outdoors.
thing. One time we all rented it, and we got stoned, and we went to town to buy groceries to eat, and we come back with frozen pot pies, and we didn't even have an oven. We didn't even have an oven, so we.
How did
come
you
back.
salvage that?
Well, we decided we would take two frying pans and put one on top of the other
I
under
remember
the
that.
gasoline burner of the. That's all it was, a gasoline burner, and put the pot pies
I
on.
don't think it worked too well, but
Well, it thawed them out, but the dough was a little bit soft.
Hey, we're still here. We're still here.
oh man, Fernandina Beach was our getaway destination.
I'll
Today
tell you-
it's known as Amelia.
Let me tell you one of my
Island.
best memories of the Wild Cottages, though, and I tell this a lot. Me and James went down there for a week, waiting on y'all to come on the weekend. And we had been there from Sunday to Friday, and we were about wore out and just sitting on the screen porch waiting for y'all. And before we saw you, we heard you. It was you and Larry Rickson, Charles Corbett, and Greg. And I heard a noise coming down the road, and I looked up, and it was y'all hanging out the windows, waving beer cans, and y'all pulled up to the cabin, and you got out. And I'll never forget what you did. It might have been an empty beer can, but you threw it against the inside of the wall on the screen porch and said, "Let's party," or "Let's go," or something like that. And we didn't slow down to Sunday morning.
I remember going there that right before football camp started my senior year at Ware County, and we drank beer all week. And then we had to go to football practice.
And he made us run.
And
Yeah.
he said, the coach said, well, you gonna run 100 yards, and then you're gonna turn around and walk back. Well, I didn't make one run down there before I was sweating profusely and had to stagger back. That beer was just coming out of every pore.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you remember he made us run 52 times around the track. He said you could walk it or run it. You remember?
Yeah.
But you had to go around the track 52 times and then go home because they couldn't officially do football camp at that point. It was
4 laps
volunteer.
is a mile, so
Yeah,
that was 5 miles, I guess.
yeah.
Well, and the only thing that saved us was that it got dark before we could do much. and so he said the next day we were going to do 70. No, it went from 2,400 yard dashes to 50 something to 72. And the fourth day, nobody showed up out there.
I remember the morning you showed up out there and you threw up in the training. We were in line doing something. You threw up, and the coach said something to you, and you said you drank orange juice.
He
said, "I bet you'll drink orange juice again, won't you, stupid?"
Yeah. He said, "What did you have for breakfast this morning?" And I said, "Sausage and eggs and
Orange juice.
and orange juice." And he said, "I bet you won't do that again, will you, stupid?" That was our.
And by the time I took you up there, I was going to take you to the doctor.
That's right.
I took James in there, and it was Coach Early and Edwin Pope. We was in the dressing room, and I said, "James has got an infected toe," and it was seriously infected. And I said, "I'm going to take him to the doctor." And Coach Early said, I'm the doctor. And they went over and they had James put his hands and hold the back of one of them bars on that window, and he took a pair of fingernail clippers. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Coach
Well, this is why
Early.
Early that's why he later got fired doing this stuff. He took them clippers, and me and Evan Pope sat there and watched him. He tore open that sore of James on his foot and mashed the stuff out and said, "Put your sock and shoe on and go practice."
Good Lord.
He could have got gangrene. That's why he later got fired, was doing that stuff. That's what that was all about later.
But we
This was
still here.
1970 when stuff like that was still allowed. This is the old days.
Yeah.
Old days.
Well, let's talk about music. Two of the Dog Hillers, just on the couch right here, we went on to music in our lives.
Okay, me and Gary actually started.
Yeah, y'all were the early students at the Record Nook
Yeah.
in 60.
Yes, sir. The carpetbaggers
5.
taught us $3 a
65.
lesson. Gary kind of faded out pretty quick, and I stuck with it.
I remember taking guitar lessons.
At the record nook.
Well, me and Larry Wiles took
Yep.
them at the State Street Motel.
Oh,
They had those little
that's probably where those guys stayed.
Could
his
have
name
been.
was
Could have been.
They were
Larry somebody.
They were playing at the Steve's Pine Room.
Steve's Pine Room.
Yeah.
Right,
band.
yeah. Carpetbaggers was the band.
That was the name of the band.
Yeah.
Well, this guy was.
Because
I
they told
remember
you
his first name was Larry.
Larry was the one that taught me, and the other one was, I can't remember his name. It was two guitar players teaching.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten a guitar for Christmas or my birthday or something, and Larry had too,
Yeah.
our first cousin. And we learned, I learned
Tom
C,
Dooley.
G, G7, F. I was a strummer. And, in practice, I got to be a good strummer.
Tom Dooley, Michael Rowe, Vote Shore, and then 8 days a week. The same thing he taught us.
And Mrs. Brown, you have a lovely daughter.
Mrs. Brown.
And then I remember hearing Chip Wiles was in there taking lessons, and I remember hearing him playing Day Tripper. And I remember telling Larry, I said, I want to learn some of that right there.
There you go.
And
Madison Gibson went to him, and
And Bill Smith
Madison told me.
Bill was there. Bill Smith was there.
Yeah. Madison told me that Larry would say, well, let me teach you this. And Madison was like, no, you play. I want to watch, And Madison just watched and listened to him play. And Madison is natural. He was naturally gifted. He plays banjo now more than anything else.
Does, yeah.
He's a great musician. He's still around.
Do you remember what happened to the Carpetbaggers?
No, this is news to me.
Here's what I'm telling you. Larry told me that Paul Revere and the Raiders people had offered them an opening act, the Carpetbaggers. And, we all started showing up at Record Nook one Saturday, and they weren't there. And I would come back every Saturday, and finally the old lady that run it, I can't remember her name.
Miss Lillian.
Yeah, and she finally, she said, I guess they're not coming back. And I'm assuming they went on the road with the Carpetbaggers. That's what I always thought.
With Paul Revere.
with the Raiders, all the Raiders.
Paul Revere and the Raiders was one outstanding.
I don't know. They were the house band there. They were the regular band.
Yeah.
Bands but for Cynthia, all you younger people.
Cynthia Balkin.
You can Google it.
A few years ago, Cynthia Balkin kept up with Larry, and he ended up being a preacher.
Is that right?
Yeah, somewhere in Georgia. And she showed me a picture of him.
Well, let's see. If I was 13 years old, he was probably 23.
Yeah.
Young rock and roll guy playing at Steve's Pine Room.
Yeah.
So he might still be around.
So you gave it up. I kept it going. Mm-hmm. And then Dave.
About the same time, Dave started taking piano lessons at
Dave was already playing piano.
School.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
and about the same time,
65.
Mama went and bought a piano.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
at,
right.
Bradshaw's, I think.
Yeah, Dave already had piano down.
What was the brand name?
Oh, God. It was a. Oh, man. I
saw an old picture and
I can't remember.
Increase the size till it.
I've got it written down in one of my tales of the week. It's probably right here. Here.
Hemingway?
It's in this book right here. Because that was the one about my uncle L.T.
It was a baby grand piano.
No, it was an upright that sat against the wall there. And I thought we'd put Uncle. Yeah, here we go, the Piano Man.
It was a Baldwin.
No, it wasn't a name that very well remembered. Let's see.
I thought it was Hemingway, but
no, it seemed like it was about a 6-letter name. Says the end of the course.
I know we used to be aggravated because David had to stop our football game and go up there and have piano lessons for 30 minutes, and we'd have to sit under the shelter and wait on him.
Well, I had to practice. I didn't have a teacher that came to the house. I took my lessons at school, but then I guess Mama made me practice, huh?
Yep.
At home.
This was our first indoctrination.
I didn't include the name of it.
And
I'll have to go out in the garage. It's still in my garage.
Of all of us guitar owners, Ray practiced more than anybody.
Yeah, Ray carried it on, and by the time I got to the 12th grade in high school, we were both in the same class. And
well, in fact, I just lost my first piano player about 2 weeks ago.
Who was that?
Steve Smith.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. You were in a band.
We were,
with
me and
Steve
him and Kenny and Steve, Dave Buchanan, Dennis Keene, and Ashley Corp. We had a band called New Beginnings. Steve was my first piano player. And that was while I was still in like 11th grade along there. And then Dave.
I had the urge to play bass guitar, and so you taught me over at your trailer.
That's right.
There.
Hey, Joe.
One day you
Jimi
had
Hendrix.
an electric guitar sitting in the corner of the room, and it had all the 4 strings of a bass.
Right. Turned it
was
into a
missing the
bass.
2 smaller strings, so It was exactly like a bass, and
Right.
you taught me the Hey Joe
Hey, Joe.
bass
Hey,
part.
Joe, you taught me that too.
Yeah,
Thank-
did.
Yeah.
And from that, me and Dave started playing around a little bit. And the year we graduated, see if you remember this, went down to Robin King's cabin at the river, and we jammed for hours, just playing nothing really, just jamming.
What year was that? 71?
71.
It was the year we were graduating. It was
Summer
that week of
71.
our graduation, actually. And then I went off to college.
51 years ago.
Me and James was at South Georgia.
I went off to Georgia Southern.
But on the weekends we come back and put our little band together. Me and Dave and Jake Lee. We brought Jake in, and we started playing and practicing in the old house next to Arnie there, one of our old rental houses we had.
Miss
there.
Crump's, Granny
Yeah.
Crump's house.
And we played a lot there, didn't we? You moved your stereo in there, all your
Oh, yeah.
records in there.
We was playing a lot of "I'm Your Captain" by Grand Funk was one of our songs
Until your daddy stopped us in the middle of the song.
on a Sunday night.
I'll never forget, we was right
They
in the
came
middle
home
of
from church and we was over there playing Grand Funk Railroad, and he came in there and I was just playing away on that bass.
Well, you was in the middle of that point where you go doom, 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 doom.
You know how bass carries.
Yeah.
And I heard
he
a
grabbed
noise.
hold of my ear or my collar and
Yeah.
just yanked me off of that bass.
Because I had my head turned and I didn't know what happened. I heard the music stop and I looked over there, and it's JR dragging Dave out of the room, and Dave had that look at, to me, almost bewildered look at me, And I thought, well, I guess we should.
Let me say something. Our daddy,
But I couldn't blame him. Now,
Daddy
listen,
has
hey,
Daddy has mellowed 100%.
but let me
yeah.
tell you, back in them days,
back
we
in
didn't.
them days, Daddy,
Yeah.
you tried to steer us right,
Yeah.
but your best efforts we resisted.
Hey, but in truth, we were louder than we should have been at late at night. So he was probably right in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because we didn't know.
I said a minute ago, Daddy's just
bother
turned
us.
95. He's healthier than we are. He
Yeah.
actually is.
Yeah. There's
And-
no way I'm going to live to be 95. I can tell you that
And
right now.
Anybody who was around us as children would have an ill temper. But Daddy's ill temper has gone. He's very mellow now.
The first
And,
time,
he's a great guy.
the first time we
great guy.
decided to go to town, I'm gonna tell you about this one. Now, James always drove.
What do you
before-
mean the first time you decided to go to town?
Because James-
Start over with that.
Because James didn't have license.
Okay,
but
you talking about
we were going out.
driving,
We were
okay.
going to go out on the town. James could drive a car without license. None of the rest of
Well,
us
how
could.
old was he?
James was 15. We were all right around the age, but it was me and James
I
and,
have my license.
and Gary and Greg, and we got all dressed up, put our cologne on. We were going to
How
town
come
for
Gary
our
didn't drive a
car. Well, it was James's
James
car.
had the car.
So it was our first
James wouldn't
time.
let me drive.
We were going to town for our first time, all cloned up, dressed up.
out on the town.
Yeah, and we go driving down that road over there by going past Hog and Bones. Now it was dirt back then. I reckon it was
Oh,
City
Reynolds
Boulevard, wasn't it? Yeah, it was
Yeah,
dirt.
City Boulevard straight.
Oh, yeah.
We were headed, I think, to the 400 Club where you could always go in and buy beer. And you run in the ditch and ditched us. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And we're all dressed up in our, and we sit in the ditch.
I don't think I was there. I've heard the story.
and a neighbor come over and pulled us out.
That was the blue Plymouth.
Yeah, the blue Plymouth he wasn't supposed to be driving when he was.
His
James-
mother bought a brand new blue Plymouth.
James being in that
and
blue
it became,
Plymouth.
became our car, really.
I guess it was corner of Central and City Boulevard, and you were sitting there in it, and Daddy rolled up across from you in that health department truck, and his daddy saw you, and he went,
Shame.
"Shame,
I didn't know what he was talking
shame,
about.
James."
I didn't know if he was shooting me a bird or what. But the reason we found the 400 Club is because my brother was older and he was legal drinking, and
Yeah.
he went with an old boy named Randall Hickox, and they go out on the
Hickox, yeah.
town.
Yeah.
And when my brother got sent off to Vietnam,
Yeah.
Randall, out of habit, he come out of the house and grabbed me.
Yeah.
And then I grabbed everybody else. But the first night we went out, he took us to the 400 Club. I think I was 14.
You went in there though.
and
I went in there.
and
I was scared.
Where
It was
was that at?
yeah, it was
It was
way out
Gilchrist
in a,
Park.
Yeah,
Gilchrist
it
Park.
was an old black club
in the middle of the woods.
I wouldn't get out of the car.
There were old black men.
just-
Well, they were probably 35 or 40. We thought they were old. They were sitting around drunk. And, a woman ran the place, right?
But they all like James.
when I went in there, it was, in the afternoon, bright, sunny. And when I opened that door, it was black dark in there. Music was blaring, and they were dancing in there. And I weaved my way to the very back, and there was an old man. I believe his name was Gene.
Yeah, it
and
was.
He
yeah.
was sitting there at a little bar, low bar, and I don't know if he had a big old plate of pancakes or a big old hoe cake, and he was eating.
Watch out now.
And he says, "Are you 18?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "What do you
Yes,
want?"
sir.
I said, I want some. I forget how many quarts of Country Club malt liquor, because that's what Randall told me to order.
Okay.
My gosh, that was some nasty tasting stuff. But we drank it. We drank it.
The first taste of sin.
Yep.
Well, before we got to them days,
Oh yeah.
and the fact that we did end up in music and everything, they were musical as well. And we all listened to music at a very early age. We all had radios, and we all tuned into the pop radio stations in our towns.
Right.
And,
Before, if you want to go back to everybody's foundation as far
Right.
as music, usually back in 1950, 53, most parents took their children to Sunday school, and we all learned Jesus loves me, this I know.
Wow.
And all those traditional songs. Well, that was their really maybe first taste of music, you might say, other than maybe your parents driving you around in the car and listening to Patty Page and Perry Como. Perry Como was huge back then.
I remember Rick.
Hot diggity, dog diggity, boom, what
Yeah.
you do to me.
That was 54.
And how much is that doggy in the window and all them.
The Tennessee
Yeah.
Wall
But our daddy
and
had,
Tennessee Ernie Ford.
had a collection at home. And that's where our education first
Yeah, he
started.
had all the Hank Williams and stuff.
Yeah, he was a big Hank Williams.
Pull up
man.
that album
Hank Williams.
cover folder that I sent you.
Hank's fame was in the late 40s, wasn't it?
Late 40s, yeah.
And then he died in
Early
51.
53
Should have been
53.
another,
on
should have
actually
been the other email.
New Year's Day, 53.
He was only 29 years
29
old.
years old.
Yeah, he was
amazing.
very old. One more.
He died of the same thing Graham died of, alcohol
That
and
one.
morphine poisoning.
Uh,
Blend,
Go
blending,
to,
the
He
blending.
lived so hard, he could have been like
Yeah.
49, not 29.
yeah,
It was amazing.
He had
We had a bad
he had
back, and he was
lot
taking morphine
a lot
for the
of
back.
demons.
and drinking alcohol on it.
Go to. I didn't number these, but go to the.
He had a great talent.
Greatest country writer of all time.
The
Country songwriter of all time.
go to King Creole first.
Just a little bit ahead of Billy Ray Herron,
Well,
as far as that goes.
yeah, I
That
did.
was one of our first
I was
albums. Now, Daddy not only had all those Hank Williams and early country 45s, like Webb Pierce and Johnny Cash and all that stuff, but he was also, Daddy was a young man, and he was young enough to appreciate Elvis Presley.
Of course.
We didn't buy this album; they bought it. Our parents bought this album for themselves, and it was one of those in their collection that we grabbed hold of. This was what, 56?
Yeah.
King Creole?
57.
57.
The movie came out in 57.
So as a
See, I think
4-year-old,
we went and saw the movie.
we saw the movie too.
Wheelers Air Force Base, Tripoli, Libya, the base theater.
Yeah.
Then I think maybe Mama bought the album at the PX,
That was
and we took it home
very
and
impressive album.
to
to
wore
us.
it out. We listened to it so much.
Now the next one is Marty Robbins' album cover.
Did it have
Marty Robbins was about gunfighter ballads.
Big Iron on his hip?
Yeah, it was gunfighter ballads, and it was that pink one
There you
there.
go. There. That's it.
Yeah. Big Iron, Cool Water, Billy the Kid, 160 Acres, There, Hanging Me Tonight, The Master's Call, Strawberry Roan, Running Gun, El Paso, In the Valley, Utah Carol, The Little Green Valley, The Hanging Tree, Saddle Tramp, and El Paso full-length version.
What about the Shy Ann? Did it have that song on there?
They didn't have that back then.
Have you ever heard that, Billy Ray?
I don't remember that one.
See,
It's
this,
called I Wrote It.
And it's one of the
Yes.
greatest songs of all time. And Dave's ashamed to play it. He's afraid he's going.
I'm afraid I'm gonna hurt some feelings.
You know,
Didn't who wrote the Ballad of Ira Hayes? Who wrote that?
Johnny Cash.
Johnny
is
Cash
famous.
sang it.
Yeah.
Of course.
You
But
know,
anyhow, it's one of them that
Marty Robbins, Frankie Lane, Johnny Cash,
Yeah.
maybe Johnny Horton.
yeah.
Those guys, we honed in on that. Why? Because it was the cowboy craze.
The cowboy
Little
thing,
boys
yes.
played
makes
cowboys.
sense.
And
Yeah.
we bought the hats, the chaps, the gun belts, and cowboy music. That was right in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And even before these cowboy songs, some of them were big hits, like El Paso was number one, I'm sure,
Oh,
for a
my
long
God, That
time.
was one of the most
But
impressive songs.
even before that, when we were a lot younger than this, we watched TV. 1955 was the year every American household, I bet,
Yeah.
bought a TV.
Mm-hmm.
And what was on the air? Hundreds of westerns.
Yep.
All the
West-
time.
Lone Ranger,
So the theme,
Sky King.
each western show, Cisco Kid, Lone Ranger, they all
Yep.
had of course, an opening and closing theme, and that indoctrinated us. That was one of our first orientations with music, and
And it
the Lone Ranger. We'd never heard of Beethoven, but the Lone Ranger theme was the
Right.
William Tell
That's right.
Overture,
Yeah.
and it was
we was getting culture. We was getting
great.
culture and we didn't even know it.
One of my
Exactly.
favorite early ones was Tex Ritter's Hillbilly Heaven.
Yeah.
Remember
Okay,
that?
you're starting to talk about traditional Western music or
Yeah.
country Western.
Yeah, I loved Hillbilly Heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a charted
Yeah.
charted on the.
And then one day, Mama went and bought me Peter, Paul, and Mary's "Blown in the Wind,"
Ooh, that's
now
a
you
good one.
and I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, man, I love this song. Then I look down at the bottom of the title, and it says "B. Dylan," which I couldn't pronounce Dylan, and I thought, wait a minute,
Okay,
this
don't know.
this guy wrote this song. Well, now
First two up.
I'm
on
more
YouTube.
interested in this guy than I am the people singing it. If this guy wrote, because I love that song so much.
yeah.
That was my first interest in songwriting, and that was pre Beatle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were pre-Beatles
I
when I'm
was 62,
talking about the
like 62.
Marty Robbins thing. I remember going in his breakfast room on Mount Pleasant Road and playing the Ranger with the big iron on his hip and Running Gun.
Oh yeah,
El Paso, all those Marty Robbins songs, and Liberty Valance by Gene.
Liberty Valance by
Pitney.
Gene Pitney.
Well,
here-
you shot Liberty
Here,
Valance.
here was one. Y'all just don't look and just listen. This is one from the James's back bedroom in probably about 1963.
Yep. Midnight Mary.
Meet me at midnight, Mary. Same place we always go. Meet me at midnight, Mary. And don't let anyone know. Don't let anyone know. Your daddy says I'm a bad boy. You've no future with
This is 63, pre-Beatles.
Yeah.
But this is just a kind of a folky kind of a song, which folk was predominant right around those early 60s years.
That's right. But
Wasn't so much
didn't cross over into the
right. It
Billboard
wasn't,
Top 100.
it wasn't so much of a all that Paul Anka and all them bobbies and stuff. It wasn't so much that style as it was. Hell, you had the record. We all loved it. That was one that we used to listen to over and over again. And the other one was that we used to listen to so much was next on the list there. It was by a crooner. He wasn't really in the vein of the Bobbies and the Fabian and all that stuff, but was his name was Pat Boone.
Yeah.
And
Pat Boone preceded.
we loved this song.
Yep.
A 1, 2, 3.
I know what you're talking about. Yep. It was the #1 hit, 1961. Spring and summer.
I wonder, was that on a movie or something?
Moody River, more deadly than the vainest night. Moody River, your muddy water took my baby's life.
Pat Boone's older than our father.
Is it?
Yep.
Came to the old oak tree.
He
It stands beside the river.
That's what he looked like about the time that record came out, I reckon.
He was a rival of Elvis and Carl Perkins. In fact, he had preceded them.
He was
Love Letters in the Sand.
he was the white equivalent to all those Little Richard records and stuff. Little
In fact,
Richard
he-
put
he-
out Tutti Frutti, and Pat
he
Boone
covered
would
it.
recut it for the white people,
Yes, yeah.
and
you're
it
right.
would be so white.
It would remind me of the SNL, the white kids trying to sing,
Not a bit of soul in it.
trying to
at all.
sing Ray Charles. What did I say?
Yeah.
What did
I say?
What about Running Bear?
Ooh, that was a good one.
Yeah.
We probably had that one in your collection as well. And I see
Bear and Little White
Little
Dove.
White Dove. I think Daddy may have had that record as well. Ooh, that was some good memory right there. Now, go back to that album covers, and the next thing we did about 64 was the Beatles, and this was Meet the Beatles. Right there, the Beatles.
There it is.
Yeah. That was
The Beatles changed everything.
Yeah.
Yep, that was February 9th, 1964, and then I guess we moved home from Albany for a year, from 64 to 65, and
What
that's when you had this album.
what month did that come out?
February 9th, 1964.
That
was when
album
the album
probably
came out
in January,
Well,
so maybe after
the first Beatles song got played on December the 27th in America.
63.
63.
I want to hold your hand.
Yeah,
and
the young girl talked the disc jockey into getting one from a friend of hers from England, a friend of his from England, and he had her come and announce it. And then the EMI went ahead and released that album, or Capitol did, I think January, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well,
And then by February, when the Beatles played on February the 9th, 1964, they held all 5 top charts on Billboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
The number
Number
1 through 5.
yeah, and they all and the entire album was on the top 100.
Well, see, I was born on February the 18th, so I had 2 aunts, Aunt May and Aunt Margie, and each one of them gave me a different one, introducing and meet the Beatles.
What they introducing was the VJ
That was the
copy
VJ copy.
that the company had actually licensed out in America because Capitol didn't think anybody in America wanted to listen to the Beatles. So VJ bought the rights to release this album, but VJ was such a small company they couldn't get a national distribution on it until the I Want to Hold Your Hand hit, and then they started distributing it until Capitol actually stopped them. And
Capitol would not put them out. They had hits over in England. Capitol would refuse to do anything, and they were the same company. In fact, EMI owned Capitol.
they had 5 number 1 hits before they released America because they didn't think Americans would like the Beatles.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But the funny thing, they let VJ and Swan label release their songs. You had 2 labels releasing Beatles songs, but they couldn't break them because they were so small of labels until
So
I
you
Wanna
got
Hold Your
that
Hand
album.
wrote.
I'm wondering if we got that album from you eventually, and then you ended up with it.
VJ record.
The VJ record that belonged to me.
Did it?
Yeah, and I think we traded for something
Probably so.
down
I
the
wondered
line.
where my albums went to.
But that was another phase that we went through there.
After the first 6 months of '64, Capitol EMI stopped everybody from releasing Beatles stuff. I don't know how they did it, but
And
they
those
were
albums
powerful
became
enough.
rare.
Yeah, they stopped everybody, and only the Capitol could release Beatles stuff after that.
Then a few years later, John Lennon had that errant comment that was not as bad. It was just taken out of context, especially in America. That Americans claimed that he was saying that the Beatles were better than Jesus.
Right.
and
It just
everything,
meant that
which
more-
was not what
they
he
had
was
greater
talking about. at all.
fame.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's more people on Earth now.
And me and Johnny went to the burning.
Well,
2,000 years
they
ago.
had the Beatles burnings all over America, and many radio stations in the South, the Bible Belt, had this big
Bonfires.
thing, bonfires outside the radio station, inviting
Bring all
people to
your
come
Beatle
down, bring your
albums
Beatles albums down,
and burn them.
and say no to John Lennon.
Yeah.
you and one of the other original Doghill,
Yeah, we went to it.
Johnny Bennett,
In fact,
rode
Johnny,
down on your bicycle.
if you ever look at that famous picture where Ricky Jackson's holding it out, Johnny's the leg that you can see. All you can see is his leg because I'm on the other
That
side of
picture's
Johnny.
in the Rock and Roll Hall
That's
of
Johnny's
Fame.
leg stuck there, and
That Beetle burning picture,
And-
they probably ain't but about one.
Johnny got on the live radio, because he always wanted to.
Here's my
spotlight.
memory of that.
Yeah,
We were sitting in his bedroom on
Yeah.
Dog Hill. You and Johnny were at WAYX
Right. Yeah.
in the backyard there on
Yeah.
Carswell where the bonfire was.
Yeah.
That first one down below that one,
Uh-huh.
right? No, go back.
And the
Now go
DJ,
to the right,
the
Go,
DJ,
go all the way to the right, all the way in the panel. Now go down. First one right there. That's it.
Okay, well, you can't see it. It's cut off there, but Johnny's leg is on the. You can't see it. It's been cropped here.
Oh, that picture's been cropped.
Yeah, there's
Johnny's
a,
leg didn't make it to
no,
the
not in that picture.
Cleveland Rock and Roll
That's
Hall of Fame.
supposedly this picture was taken in Waycross, Georgia.
It was, yeah.
Do you know
at
that any of the people?
WAYX.
Yeah, Ricky Jackson. The BBC came and got me and Ricky a few years ago and took us to the AYX and filmed us. Did you know about that? They were doing a documentary on this stuff, and they come to my store. The BBC did, and me and Ricky Jackson went in there and they filmed us in front of the station, but they've never released it.
Here's the laugh line. And if you knew Johnny Bennett, Johnny was he was full of what all the time.
But he always wanted that spotlight.
Yeah, he liked the spotlight. We had nicknames. He wanted his nickname to be King Bennett.
And it was.
King Bennett. Well, some of us might have called him that, just to pacify him. But Ray and Johnny went to the Beatle
Right, the
record
Beatle burn.
Go
burn.
to images.
But not to burn Beatle albums. Not to burn them.
No, y'all didn't take your albums
And we
to
didn't
burn.
have intentions of getting any, but
But the DJ was, they did a live remote behind
Right.
the station, and the DJ with the long microphone cord, was it Chad Lawrence? I can't remember.
you know, I don't remember his name.
But he would interview the kids in the crowd,
Yeah.
and you could hear off mic, you could hear a voice. The Beatles stink like the fire stinks. And the DJ said, well, son, I think that's an all-American comment. What's your name? Johnny Bennett.
What do you think?
Johnny
of that?
Bennett. We cracked up. We were listening
Yep.
to it
So
live.
who's the guy holding the album right there?
That's Ricky Jackson.
Ricky
They
Jackson.
always called him Jack Rabbit. He's still
Now,
around.
here's the real kicker. Right after Johnny said that on the air, that the Beatles stink like the fire stinks, somebody on the other side of the fire from where Johnny was frisbeed an album.
Two of them.
And it skipped across the fire and landed at Johnny's feet.
They landed out in the dark. But what happened was,
Johnny picked it up and put it under his shirt.
no, here's what happened. Johnny got up there and he said, they asked him what you think about the Beatles. He said, I think the Beatles stink, you know, like that. And then it just happened, two albums flew across and they got outside the light, kind of in the dark. And Johnny turned around to me and he said, let's grab these and run like hell. And Alice lived down there behind the station, Johnny's sister, my cousin too, you know. And that's how we done. We like Satchel Paige, don't look back, something's gaining on you. We went through the dog kennels with two albums in our hand to Alice's house. And I had Something New and he had Meet the Beatles.
I thought one of them was the Beatles sing in German.
No,
You
I
remember
don't.
that album?
I do, but that didn't
Come
make.
get Merdina hand.
Yep.
But you know, most of the Beatles, the albums that were burnt, there was the radio station's album. It wasn't the kids burning their albums.
Look at those happy, determined faces.
And the next,
We're doing something good.
the next morning, me and Johnny and Wayne put on a Beatle tribute at my house and opened the windows up and stuck the speakers out of the windows so everybody would hear the Beatles music and played Beatles music all day long in tribute to them the next day.
Yeah. The DJ, doesn't he look like Dick Clark?
He does. I
course
wonder
it
if that was
wasn't.
an out of town DJ that came up and did that.
You see
or-
the face right in the top up there? That's Robert Peacock.
which one?
The very top up there, that's Robert Peacock.
Right
He
there.
played bass for all the bands and
That
early
looks
bands.
like a girl on
No,
the
that's
right
Robert Peacock right
Looks
there.
like Sean
there. On the
Clark.
right.
That's Robert at the top, right there.
Top right.
Yeah, that's Robert. And
It looks
Edwin.
like I swear it
and
looks
that's
like
Edwin.
a girl.
You see the head that
It's
you
like a
can't.
bearded person.
That's Robert. I'm telling
Okay,
you.
yeah.
But listen,
Brillo.
you see the other one above the sailor's hat?
Yeah.
That's Edwin Peacock that married Judy.
Yeah.
My sister.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's Edwin.
So that was Slick's wife's first husband.
No,
No,
you're
not
talking about
married
Judy
Judy.
Price.
Judy Price, my stepsister.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Remember
I got
Edwin
you. I got
Peacock
you.
that married Judy Price? Remember
I
my
got you.
stepsister.
Well, that's history, folks.
And I
Are
think
y'all
Lamar,
keeping up with all
it
this?
seemed like Lamar Wiles is standing right there.
Yeah, I think that's Lamar Wiles right above the album.
It is.
Yeah,
This
right there
picture
in the
really
checkered
is
shirt.
in Cleveland
He's
in the
married
Rock and
to
Roll
Betty
Hall of Fame.
Harris.
Harris.
That's
yeah.
right, yeah.
That's Lamar Wiles.
How about
That was a recognizable face. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking somebody at the Waycross Journal-Herald took the picture.
No, Savannah News AP come down and took it. That's how.
Oh, okay. Savannah
In fact, let
Morning.
me tell you, there's a fuller picture. That's Johnny's leg right there. Look at the leg behind Ricky Jackson. You see the leg?
In the checkered shorts.
That's Johnny Bennett. I'm
That's
standing right
yeah,
beside
that's
Johnny.
So his leg is in the Hall
That's
of
him
Fame
there.
in
Yeah.
Cleveland.
But the original picture had half of Johnny's
Doghill.
face.
Doghill right there, folks. History.
If you ever see the original one before they cropped
That's
it,
King Bennett's leg.
the original picture,
Yeah,
was
I
a little
think-
wider, and you can see half of Johnny's face.
I remember that from years ago.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So
Well,
we
let's see
were
what else
represented.
we
there.
got here with the album covers. Here's one Guy Lombardo. This is what we used to decorate our Christmas tree to right here. That was one of Daddy's many records in his record collection. That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a very childhood experience right there.
Well, during those days, my little granny, she was on up in age, and my aunt owned a store downtown painting tile.
Aunt LeMay.
And Aunt May would hire a black lady to come out there and cook twice a week and clean up to help my little granny.
Mary.
And Mary Taylor and her
I remember.
husband, Terry Taylor, he played drums at the Elks Club. And but Mary, she'd say, "What records you want, James? Your little granny and I are going to town," and I'd say, "Well, get whatever you think." And she would always have that influence on me,
Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke, and
Sam Cooke.
So we used to listen to all that because of Mary's
How
influence.
about that? That's something, ain't it?
And later on, and when we got a little older, Mary lived across the street from the stadium, and we would go up there and give her a few bucks, and she'd walk across the street to the convenience store and get us beer and get her some.
That's right. Yeah.
She helped
Johnny
us.
Reb convenience
about
store,
that.
wasn't it? Johnny Reb.
Yeah.
Johnny Reb.
Yep.
Well, let's moving forward here. Well, it might have been your influence on us. With her influence on you became your influence on us because
Sure,
we ended
y'all-
up
yeah.
buying Sam Cooke records too.
How about yeah?
We had several of Sam Cooke's records. You remember that one by the Marquis called "Oh Last Night"? That was Donald Duck Dunn, Steve Cropper, those
Yeah.
white boys from Memphis, Tennessee.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we had that one and just got strung out on it. Here's the first album that me and Gary pooled our money, first one right there. Pooled our money together at Sears
There we
Roebucks
go.
in Albany.
Frankie Valley.
There we go.
Ooh,
Of
we
course,
used to
nobody
listen
knew
to
the
that
name
one.
Frankie Valley for a couple of years. They
Right.
were just the Four Seasons.
That's
you know.
it.
He's the little one. He's the little one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sherry.
Walk Like a
Sherry
Man.
wasn't on this album, but this was the
Walk
next
like a
big
man,
hit
sing it like a woman.
after
Man.
after Sherry.
There we
But
go.
we were Sherry Baby was one of our favorites too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was their first. That launched
That was
them
the
to
first
stardom.
big hit, and we
That
loved
was
that. So
1961.
we jumped on this one when we bought it.
Yeah.
Now, I'll have to say this: later on in after high school, Gary was in the service. He entered the Air Force. He didn't draft dodge. He got a low number,
I serviced my country, and I'm proud of it.
and he just went on in. He didn't avoid it.
No, but I joined the Air Force. I did not want to go to Vietnam,
That's
which
right.
was all the rage.
You
If you
still
got drafted,
mighta-
you were
Right? You still might have
yeah. But
been picked to go even in
I
the Air
joined
Force.
the Air Force,
And
which
odds.
meant 4 years, but I didn't want to do the Army 2 years and spend one of them in the jungle over there.
Plus, our daddy was in the Air Force for
Then
some
I-
years.
then I-
Yeah, if the Air Force had sent me over there, I probably would have been on Tonsanute Air Force Base
That I'm the last one
with
drafted.
Adrian Cronauer,
I'm
not-
the last one in Ware County ever
far away
drafted.
from the action.
Is that right?
Me and Johnny Tucker and Danny Howard filled the quota for Sally Cason.
Did-
And she told us at the thing that we were the final draft in October 1972, and they ended the draft on January the 1st.
How about
We were
that?
the final draft in Ware County. We
You
filled
and
our
who?
quota. Johnny Tucker and Danny Howard from Waycross. Johnny went to Ware County. Remember Johnny?
And your number was 60
79.
79.
They
I know.
pushed it to 95 is what I was told, but
Hey, mine was I
Yeah.
can't remember, but it was 200 or something. But that very first year,
right, yeah,
my
it was
first
getting
year,
everybody could.
they took way
Well, they
up.
knew
in
the draft was going to end on the 1st of January, and the Vietnam War was going to begin official evacuation, as they called it.
We're talking about the draft lottery, and there were
Yeah.
365 numbers.
So
one
by the
for
time we
each.
come out of training, you couldn't go to Vietnam because the evacuation had started.
Yeah.
So most people went to Germany. That's where Johnny and Danny, and they sent me to Fort Stewart. That's where I ended up at.
Did you draw a number?
Yeah, he had a high number. I remember.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
low numbers
207.
put you in peril of
Mine
being
was
drafted.
about 106.
Well,
You would have been gone.
me and you was at South Georgia College when we all sit down in the lobby and they read our numbers out, and mine was 79, and you made fun of me.
I can't remember. I remember looking
Bye-bye,
for
Ray.
you. And
Tell Charlie, hey.
and they,
You made fun of him.
He did. I went up to my room, went to bed. I was so upset.
Watch out
James-
for them punji sticks and booby traps.
But it took a year before they drafted me. It was a year later.
well, they drafted up to 195 in the system, and I was 207. And every night Nixon would get on the TV and say, "We need that next allotment number," and that would have went to 215. So I'd have been gone. I sweated it out.
Yeah.
Of course, my grades probably would have kept me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what got us all in
or
our
a physical
troubles.
defect.
James
You
worked
had
at,
to,
he worked at the post office at the college. That was one of his summer jobs. And little Granny used to tell everybody he worked for the federal government.
well, in a manner of speaking.
Yeah, I guess so.
I got to look at the first Playboys because they would come in and the batches, and I'd have to fold them up and stick them in everybody's. That was a big thing back
Oh,
then.
that's why I had French fry grease on my Miss October
But
holdout. Right?
the Cooper Hall house mother didn't like
That meant
you,
you were.
did you?
No, we did have a panty raid there one time, and there was two people got caught. It was me and a buddy named Ronnie Smith, and he was an RA.
Yeah, they fired him. They had a trial for him.
Well, he got out of it.
No, they put a trial. They actually fired him from the RA.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the trial. They had a trial, and they took his RA status from him.
Well, I remember.
But you were the other one they identified because of the motorcycle.
Yeah, but the girl that identified both he and I, they were RAs, and so she knew him because they have meetings. And I went to church with her my whole life.
RA was a resident assistant.
But
was a
the
college
Cooper Hall
student
lady hated James
of
so bad.
some authority.
She would go sit in the lobby and stare at James at the post office, and this is what James would do to her at the end of the day. He would stare at her, and he had a wooden door that would close at the post office, and he would tap it. It would
But what
While he was staring at
What?
her and just rolled.
she
right
was the
across.
dorm mom, and she called the law and said that man is a burglar. I mean, she made it
Trespasser.
personal. She made it
Breaking
personal.
and entering.
Yeah, it was like, and it was a 200 people panty raid.
We all went to South Georgia College in Douglas, except my brother Dave. He went to Statesboro,
Southern.
Georgia Southern.
I lasted only 1 quarter there, and y'all probably lasted a lot longer than
And
I
we
did.
went as long as they'd let us.
I went till I got drafted.
I was a junior at a 2-year college.
Yeah.
I was a junior at a 2-year college.
Not that I'm proud of it, but I'm not ashamed.
Well, let's look at some of them old pictures. Pull some of them old pictures up. I went searching online, and let's see. I just made copies of a bunch of old pictures from chronological. There we go. We'll start with that one.
Well, this ain't no fair. I can't see them.
We'll
We'll tell
describe them.
What they look like.
Hey, that's me. And, let me tell y'all something about that picture. That is the only picture I've ever found of me and my daddy together.
Is that you on the right?
You're about.
Yeah, I've never found
Two.
another picture with me and him together ever.
That's probably about 1954.
And you know where that's at, don't you?
Or
Right there. That's the Tittle Square Shopping Center right across there. That's
what house is that? dude?
82, and that's City Boulevard this way.
That's Night Avenue then.
And that's where the bank sits now that's closed down. Where that White House is, the bank closed down.
Oh yeah.
That's
On
the old
corner.
Rollerson house. That's
About that.
and that was our
For all
park.
you
remember?
youngsters, this is very near Eliano's, right,
Yeah.
Ray?
Yeah. Huh?
So that's where
Eliano's.
Rep's Grocery was right there to the
Yeah,
right.
that's the railroad track running across there. And
Happy dog.
that's 82, and that's City Boulevard right there. That's what it looked like back
About
then.
1954.
That's before they paved City Boulevard.
That's Arnie
City
Herrin
Boulevard
Sr.
was a dirt road.
holding Billy Ray Herrin,
Yeah.
Were you
2-year-old. You remember that toy in your hands?
Can't even tell what it is.
What was
Almost
you
looks
doing?
like the Brunswick Highway's dirt. but
Brunswick
it's
Highway
not.
was actually paved. It's just a lot of dirt on it. Probably it was already paved.
Yeah.
Is that where
Like-
Sin City?
Looks yeah,
started?
Sin
Yeah.
City would have been
Yeah, right
They
behind.
would have
Right
been the kind of
this way.
facing it.
Yeah.
behind the camera, man.
Sin City was a record
See,
store.
my daddy was actually
run by
52 when I
Billy
was
Ray
born.
Herring.
I was from his second marriage. He had
There
a
he
marriage
is.
before with, I had two half sisters.
Billy Ray Herrin,
That's me.
2-year-old playing with baby dolls.
There it is. Or something.
It ain't a baby
The
doll.
hell it was. I don't
All
know.
right,
Your ears look like Greg Griffin ears.
go ahead.
They were there.
And here's one about I think the dates are marked on there, but I'd
Have to
say
be
that's
54
probably
or
about
5.
54.
But who's who there now?
That's Wanda
With her back turned.
with her back turned in a little dress. Gary holding the hands up to shade his eyes.
That's you there.
Me standing in a slouch chair, and Stan
Yeah, I see that
holding
now.
me straight so I
Yeah.
wouldn't flip and fold up.
Yeah.
Dave
That's
was
in our
bald.
backyard.
Look, he's daring the sun to blind his eyes.
Yeah,
Everybody else was-
Stan's looking away, and Wanda's turned
Everybody
completely
else was-
around. There you go. That was Dog Hill.
It was in our backyard on
Yeah.
Dog Hill.
All
was
right,
in
now
our
this
front
one, the
yard.
reason I put this one is here because when you look behind us, you
That's
can
Ray's
see
house.
Crump's house, I think, or
Yeah.
is that
That's
and-
Crump's house, and then
and
there's
then
Ray's house.
house to the left
Oh,
of it.
yeah, it sure is, isn't it? That's our old practice house.
That's the house we were talking about where Daddy yanked me out
that was our
by the
practice.
collar.
Granny Crump's house became vacant. That became our band practice.
This
house.
might have been first day of school picture or something. Everybody's dressed up. Of course, I wasn't going to school.
Yeah, you and Wanda would not be going to school.
Not in this
Stanley, the
picture.
tall boy, was their first cousin. Mm-hmm. And Wanda, Cheshire, his sister's next in line.
Yeah,
Gary.
They live next door to us.
in the
That's me in the striped shirt.
vertical stripe, and me
like-
in the horizontal stripe.
Looks like a barbershop shirt. You
I
got
had a
on.
mohawk. I mean,
And Dog Hill.
I don't know what Dave's got on there.
Folks.
What's that hanging under you there?
It was a brown
Oh,
part of the shirt. It's kind of like a collar or something.
okay.
Dave was always happy. Look,
Yeah, he wouldn't have to go.
Give
to
us your
school.
best. Give us your best. Look at the rest of y'all.
Yeah.
he always looked on the bright side of life.
Well, stop.
Next. Okay. Now the reason I put this one is here because in the background is the famous James Cocke
That is.
house.
Yeah.
JF Lots.
JF
James
Lots.
Cocke.
This was before Wayne's bedroom was built on.
And we thought we were rich.
Now, who all is this?
This two little girls from Air Force friend
They were
family.
out of town friends of Daddy's from. Daddy was in the Air
What's
Force.
that look on your face, Dave?
Well, you see, I'm in my underwear. First of all, I think I just
You're riding a lawn flamingo like it's a horse.
no
huh?
with sticks. See, Sherry
yeah,
had a
Sherry.
stick and I had a stick horse.
Okay.
And,
Those are flamingos.
Everybody ran around back in them days without shirts. In my case,
Yeah.
without shirt or
And
shorts.
shoes. No, or shoes.
That's me.
Oh yeah,
with the
we
hand-
always
with the,
barefooted back in those
Is that
days.
Gary next to
debonair
you?
expression on my face. And I had Greg Griffin ears too. looked
Yeah.
like. So did Dave.
Yeah. Okay. There's the old famous Doghill Gang, early Doghill Gang picture
That's James.
of us on the stile
Yeah.
crossing over in the backyard.
That's Wayne at the top. And is that Wanda?
Yeah.
Wanda. James's older brother Wayne Cocke.
What's
Definitely
James?
with Greg Griffin.
James got
ears.
one eye shut. What's
It's the sun. Remember, they
That's
made you
James.
face the sun to take
Why did they
pictures back in
torture us?
that.
They always say, look,
That was
face the
common
sun.
knowledge. Face the sun and the picture will take better.
well, maybe, yeah. That's true.
A light source.
Yeah, James.
Do you-
photography's come a long way.
Let's see, Wanda's got it too. She's kind of
Yeah.
Squinting.
squinting.
Yeah.
James
Okay.
got his right eye closed, kind of like you do still.
Me, I'm barefooted again.
Yeah.
Everybody else got shoes on.
Gary's got Converse on, looks like.
I looked like maybe I was in the first grade.
James got Keds.
Yeah.
First grade. Me and Wayne were school kids.
That's a very early picture right there of Dog Hill. This was before we would have known you.
That's right. Yeah. I was too far down the road.
You were 2 houses down the road on
It
the
was
other
too far.
side. It was just too far.
When I was real young, Arnie
Yeah.
and David Bennett
Yeah.
and Stanley and Wayne would come down there, and they would let me play because it was my yard.
That's right.
And
What
so
would they play?
football.
Yeah.
And David, he was really, really athletical
He
and
was.
slick.
He was good.
And
He was. Like
Johnny
Johnny.
Bennett's older brother,
Yeah.
David.
And he would always put me on his side and kind of take care of me.
Right.
But
I never knew this.
And
Yeah, I
I
remember
told this
that.
story in that other podcast, and somewhere, I don't know, I was about 12 years old, and David had just come back from Vietnam from
Yeah.
first tour,
Right.
and he opened up a bag of reefer out there and showed us.
Oh, yeah.
That was my first
I remember that.
witness. And
Yeah, I remember him bringing that.
because he didn't share with us, but
Yeah.
Wow.
but that
remember
was
that.
my first memory.
Sure did.
All right. Okay, here's another one of the. He was never in the Doghill Gang because I guess he just left too soon.
He was just too weird. His name was Dean Oxford.
Yeah.
Careful now, he's probably watching.
Hey, and I hope he comes down here and kicks your butt.
He's a Facebook
Calling
friend
him
of mine.
weird.
He's on
Yes,
Facebook.
he
now.
is.
Yeah,
He's
affectionately.
following us, but he sure could catch some fish.
He was my best friend, still is. Hey,
That's
Dean.
James and Dean Oxford. He was next door neighbor on the other side of James'
Whose house is that? That Dean's.
That's
That's
Dean's
Dean's
house.
house.
Dean's, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
His mother and father was Gene and Glover Oxford.
That fish was caught in the canal, wasn't it?
Yep, and
Waycross.
and that just goes to show you right there that I wasn't always well nourished.
That's true. You were a tight fit little kid there.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I just put this in there randomly. That's a picture of the Okefenokee Swamp Park boat docks, of which both of these guys worked.
We sure did.
Yep.
And there's some stories there.
Man.
They were teenagers working at the Okefenokee Swamp
Yeah, we
Park.
were. That's the year I actually got drafted, I think. I was working there.
Yeah.
Well, you and I were coaching because I remember you
That's
had
right,
to, you
yeah.
had to leave and left me, and I grabbed Tommy James
That's right.
to help me because you were gone.
That's right.
And I remember at a ball game in Memorial Stadium, after the game, a big jet flew over the field, and one of them little boys, and I can't remember who it was, said, "Bye, Coach Herrin."
That was probably me. In fact, the one good thing we did right before we left, I discovered we had a running back that James had hid. Me and David Shields talks about this a lot now.
And our memories differ on this.
Here's what happened. And David even remembers this
They're
day.
talking about rec league.
Well, what
midget
it was,
football.
we had played a
Pee-wee.
couple of games and
Pee-wee
we weren't winning because we didn't have anybody run the ball.
The
So one
Memorial
day I
Drive
called a
Wildcats.
practice session. I said, we're going to run the Oklahoma drills and I'm going to find a running back. Well, it's James that's got him. He's the guard. And it's David Shields, and he runs over everybody. And I looked at James. I said, James, what in the hell? He said, well, I knew if you knew he was that good, you'd take him from me. I said, shit, we'd be winning the games. So we
That's
put him
not
What do you
in.
mean you would take him from him?
Well,
Y'all were
because
both as a running
I
backs
was the
coach.
offense because he was
okay.
defense. So I
Okay.
take him.
Okay.
First game, we take David to his offense, and we beat the hell out of everybody. You put the ball in David's hand, he run over everybody.
Well,
This is
here's
David Shields, father of Trey Shields.
And,
Here's
and
what
he
I
ended
re-
up being probably Georgia Southern's greatest running back. I think Eric Russell even said that, didn't he?
well,
He was the fastest Eagle
here's what I remember
during that first year.
during our little league. They always made us go out there with the boys in shorts and no helmets. All they could do was just run around and get
Yeah.
acclimated. And the first day we was out there, we run them and see who was the fastest.
Right.
and David and Todd Veal were the two fastest
Right.
players there.
They sure were.
And I asked David, I said, have you ever played football? He said, yes, sir. I was a guard at Waycona.
How about that?
And I
never knew that.
said, you ain't no more. And that's what I remembered. But
But David remembers the Oklahoma Drills Day. He told me himself, because he comes to see me at the store. He's a
Right,
friend.
right.
He told me, he said, I remember the day you did the Oklahoma Drills. And he said, I remember that's what he went to the backfield. He remembers that day.
Well, here's the other thing I remember. The first game we played was against like Waycona.
Yeah.
And our little boys hadn't won a game in 3 years when we took over.
Yeah.
And they beat us like 7-0 or something. And then the next game we played maybe William Heights, and they beat us by a hair. But that next game, we played a not near as talented team, and we kicked their butt.
Well, I remember you sent me clippings while I was in basic trainings, and David was just beating the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, I got
David
that.
Shields' husband
I
was
don't know.
Sophie.
I don't know how in
This
the
was
hell,
back when he was
I don't
a
know how in the hell
midget
Okefenokee boat
football
dock
player.
picture stirred all them football memories.
Now y'all dressed up there now.
This
man.
was Easter. I can't remember what year, but that's
Deb's 2, so it's 62.
me and Gary and Deb, our little sister Deb, who was born when we lived in Tripoli, Libya.
That's in James's
That
living
is in
room.
James. We went over there evidently before or after church to take a picture, and that's probably Edie.
I like that state of the art TV there.
And well, that's James's house right there.
That was
There's the
David.
old white chair,
See that
Old-
directional antenna thing on the
yeah,
top
the
of the
directional
TV?
antenna, which was common on ours.
Well,
There's
that
a
kept you about to go outside and turn the
thermometer to the
antenna.
right side of the front door. There's a thermometer hanging on the wall.
What's that smile on your face there, Dave?
I was
He was always happy.
always giving all I had.
I mean, Gary just looks like normal. He's all right, and you got
I
this.
just, I'm blinking and smiling big. Now, if my
guess-
eyes were open, it'd
All-
been all right. But
All Griffins had those ears back then. Greg's were even more prominent.
Deb looks like little Granny in that picture.
Yep, no relation, but she does.
Yeah, all dressed up, nowhere
It's
to
our
go.
baby sister. She's now 62.
Yep.
Hush your mouth.
Sorry, Debbie.
Hey, can I say?
Just
Go ahead.
pointing out this was a long time ago. Go ahead.
Dave went out to Greg's house and got some stuff from his wife. And before we had this today, we were going to do another one, and he was going to be in it.
Really?
But we didn't know he, got
Didn't
as
know he
sick
was
as
going to up
Well,
and down.
yeah, we were definitely planning one of these podcasts with everybody.
I didn't know that.
And old Slick told me, he says, I tell you, James, I'm having dental problems. I got to do this. And he says, I ain't got many teeth left. And he says, if I go, I think I'm going to bring a corncob pipe and bring my old Georgia Bulldog hat and turn it over to one side and try to sound like a hillbilly. and we laughed and talked about that thing. And his wife told me the other day, she said that he loved them Georgia Bulldogs so much
I know it.
that for the last couple of years, he wore the same socks, the same underwear,
Well-
the same pants, and the same shirt.
She gave me the hat, or loaned me. I not gave me.
sweet.
She loaned me the hat, which is hanging on our caution light up there, and the shirt, which is hanging right back here behind me and Ray.
How about that?
And I told her that we didn't want his underwear.
But the thing was, he wore the
This was the
same
lucky. That was the lucky hat and the
on
lucky
game
shirt.
day. The very
On
same
game day
socks,
of every Georgia Bulldog
very
game.
same underwear.
And I think we mentioned this early on that this is his old trench coat.
That's it. There.
Yeah.
He was a
And,
trench coat man.
He was slick. He was slick even when he was
Yeah.
fishing. Look at that. That's a perfectly pressed
James,
khaki shirt.
Do you remember when Greg came home from Atlanta one weekend, and he had hashish,
Yes, I do.
and he told me and you and him drove down to where the golf course is at now in Blackshear. Used to be old dirt
Hacklebarney.
roads.
Hacklebarney, ain't that
Yeah,
what they
when he
call it?
drove down there and smoked his hash, which I'd never smoked anything that strong. We came out quite stoned. We drove to the burger chef. We all went inside the burger chef, ordered hamburgers and French fries, and James and Greg went into a laughing spell and started rolling all over the tables in there. And I thought we was going to be arrested, so I left my food in there and went and got in the truck. And they came out all like, what's wrong with you? I said, well, hell.
The
y'all
Burger
rolling
Chef
over?
was the place to be. It's about where Jerry J's on Plant Avenue.
I got a
is
picture of that in there somewhere.
now.
Well, I'll say this: the next morning, everybody that was going to school skipped school and come to my house over behind the stadium at 903 Clifton Grove, and Mama worked 7 to 3. So Greg brought that stuff in there, and we hit up on that thing that morning about 8 o'clock. And when Mama got off work got home about 3:30, we was still messed up. That was the baddest stuff I ever run across.
Do you remember the time me and you decided to drink some Calvert's liquor straight?
Yes, I do.
We bought us 2 half pints, and we sit in
Where'd you
James's
buy that?
house, and we drank 2 half pints apiece. But that wasn't enough. We decided we needed 2 more half pints. So we went where we got it, Blackie's or somewhere, State Street. We got 2 more half pints. We drank every bit of that. And I don't know how we drove, but we drove to the tobacco warehouses over where Food Line's built
You
now.
drove.
I drove, and we ended up in the tobacco warehouses jumping on Randy Harrell's back bales he was pushing. The next morning we woke up, my car was parked 45-degree angle in that dirt road in front of your house. And
Oxford
you
Street.
could
I
see
think.
where my car was headed to the fence. And either me or you grabbed the steering wheel and turned it. And it come back out and it was parked like this. We get up the next morning and remember what our chore was? Try to find your tooth. You had lost your tooth in the house somewhere.
James had a false tooth
I got
since
knocked
he
out
was-
playing football.
since he was 15, I think.
But I'll say this: when we went to the tobacco warehouse, we were going to go get a job, and I remember laying on one of them tobacco. What do you call them things? Them dollies.
Yeah.
Yeah, Randy was pushing it. I think I was working as well.
You might have been.
I was
You
laying
could've
there on my back, and that boss man came up there and he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want a job." And he said, "You come back tomorrow and I'll give you one." And but I
That'd
couldn't go
take
back.
anybody.
I couldn't go back the next day. I was so hungover. That's,
Was it that little curly-headed man from Export Tobacco Company?
I don't know, but I didn't like
Mr. Shoe.
liquor.
Yeah, Mr. Shoe hired me the next year. The year I got drafted, actually, Mr. Shoe hired me to drive the truck from the warehouse to the boxcar. And it was a nice truck with air conditioner, radio. And he said, but you have to either load or unload. That's the deal. You got to load or unload from the warehouse to the boxcar. Well, I told the boxcar people I was unloading, and I told the warehouse people I was loading. So I rode the whole summer in the truck. And Mr. Shoe told me at the end of the summer, because we went out to his motel room out there at Carl King's motel. He said, I know what you did, son. I would have done the same thing.
Every summer, we were like college age. Every summer, we'd get a, pretty good job, like at the plywood plant or somewhere.
Yeah.
And then after a month of that, we'd get tired and we'd be hankering to go to Fernandina for a week. So we'd quit.
Yeah.
And we'd tell our parents, well, we're just going to wait till the tobacco warehouse opens in early August. And that's what we did. That was always our fallback job. And
That year Ray's talking about, it was our senior year in high school. And I was going to play football for Ware County. Ray was going to play. And we was an all-white crew. And over there next to us was an all-black crew. And the foreman over there, which we thought was the foreman, was a man amongst boys. And his name was Doyle Orange.
Oh, yeah.
And we didn't know that we were going to have to play against him that year because they integrated.
Yeah.
Doyle Orange was one of the greatest running backs
In Waycross.
for Waycross High School.
We thought he was
And later professionally.
We thought he was 30 years old. You know, he just.
Oh, yeah.
He might have
Same
been
age as
28.
y'all.
Could have been. Could have been.
I'll tell you this story. We were on one big truck loading it up where they back up against the warehouse and they stack them up real high. And the trucks was real high to start with.
Yeah.
And we were stacking that tobacco in them sheets up there. And the next to us was Doyle Orange's bunch. And one of them black guys was up on the very tip top. And he slipped and fell straight backwards and landed on his back out there on that dirt, hard concrete. And we thought he died. So we were like, oh my God, what's wrong? And all them other black guys on that, they were just laughing and crying. And nobody went in to help him. And he just finally kind of come to and rolled over under the shade of the truck and later got
I
up.
don't remember that.
I remember, I don't know if I was there, but I remember hearing about it.
I
how
thought
about-
he was dead.
How about the root patches?
Oh my goodness.
That'll
Here
take
we
a
are.
whole,
3 original root patchers
that'll
right
be
here.
another episode.
Who was the MVP? The most valuable picker.
What it
Well,
was Dixie Road Builders.
what I
wasn't it?
remember is that we didn't do any more than we had to because Red was being watched all the time, remember?
Uh-huh.
Because they come in there
He
and
was a
told Red,
lookout.
they told Red they're watching you. So Red worked the whole time and we didn't.
The
But y'all
company
were
was,
having to
company
pull
was-
roots
yeah.
up out of the dirt soil
Yeah.
for
what it
them
was,
to come through and pave the
Dixie
roads.
Road Builders, their
Scuffletown,
employer was
Georgia.
paving a dirt road in Bacon County.
Scuffletown.
Y'all had
Yeah.
to clear
Scuffletown Road.
the roots out.
I remember
And
James holding
we
one
had to-
root all day long.
They were going to widen the dirt road and pave it, and on the right of ways they cleared it. There was roots left. We were root pickers. Our job was to
yeah.
pull the roots up, pick them up off the ground,
throw
pile
them
them
in a
up.
pile and they come by and burn them.
There were millions of roots. I mean,
One time James had one root he held all day long. It didn't come out of the ground. And every time somebody come by, James was pulling on the same root.
Well, I'd go a circle. I'd like I was pulling on it and I'd come
our
back.
bosses would leave us out there under an honor system. And about once every 30 minutes, one of them would drive by in a pickup truck.
Check on us.
One of our friends, Red,
Red.
he was the only one that really tried to do an honest day's
Because
work.
they said they were watching him, remember?
But for some reason, they thought he was the
What not?
sluffer offer. So he was in fear of losing his job. So we finally influenced him to do no more than we would.
Yeah.
But he would stand out on the road and watch
keep-
for those trucks.
What's helped us.
He was our lookout.
What would y'all do? Lay in
We'd
shade?
be sitting on a stump.
I
One,
had one
something.
stuff I sit on.
one time there was a big sign, your state taxes at work, and that was the only shade. When that sun got on the other side, so we went over and laid in the shade, and cars would go by and blow their horn at us, aggravated.
That was the day we had decided it didn't matter
yeah.
because you started talking about watermelons at home. And we said, you know what? Oh, we don't care if we get fired. So we left work early, went to James's house to eat watermelons. The only thing that saved us was WL caught the woods on fire. Remember old WL?
Yes, I
W.L.
do.
Corbett.
He caught the woods on fire above us, and everybody had to go try to put the fire out. And they didn't know we had left 2 or 3 hours earlier, so we still had our jobs when he come back.
So we got that back that next
Y'all
morning. They
couldn't
said,
get fired even after trying.
we got back that next morning. They said, where were y'all? We had to work till 11 o'clock putting out that fire. And then another time, one of our bosses was down there and he was at a road grader and he was
Broke his neck.
mashing down little pine trees, little small saplings.
Yeah.
And one of them flipped around there and come through the thing and popped him in the neck and it broke his neck. So he
crawled to his truck.
he crawled to his truck and started flashing his lights. And we
Yeah.
said, "Oh, the boss says we can go home." So we called tail and left him out there with a broken neck.
What was his name?
Oh my gosh.
Dave Thrift's the only old boss that I can remember.
Yeah.
Dave,
Well, you know,
remember Dave Thrift with
I
a cigar.
I quit first, I think it was, or did you quit first? You quit first. And they told me to tell you not to ever come back. And I quit the next day, and they told Gary to tell me not to ever come back.
I stayed, me and Danny,
Yeah.
Danny, what's his name?
Herrin.
Herrin. He got bear caught. I almost did. They had us filling up bags of riffraff. Riprap.
That's when you
Riffraff.
quit after that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You remember when the guys from those Bacon County guys started wanting to fight us, and we all started walking, and I told y'all I knew where a fellow was they wouldn't want to mess with. You know who
Ed
it was?
Dallin.
It was Ed Dallin.
Yeah.
Ed had a crew
Coach-
around the
Coach
corner.
Dallin?
Yeah, Coach Dallin. And these rednecks from Scuffletown was wanting to fight us, and we started moving our crew toward Ed. And we rounded the corner, and Ed was standing over with his crew, and they were just running their mouth. And I remember when they come around the corner, Ed said, "What y'all boys want?" And they stopped dead in their track, and they said, "Nothing." Started
Nothing,
going
sir.
down. Yeah.
Hey, if any of this makes a final edit, all names are fictitious. Do not represent any dead or living person.
Well, we've been in here almost 2 hours, so I'm sure this ain't going to be one episode. This is
Probably
bound to be two, or maybe partial deep end or something. But if we're going to do a deep end, we're going to have to change the light to red, and I'm going to have to put on another hat because shit gets deep.
I'm telling you. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did have a lot of jobs, and y'all were always leading the way. I was 3 years behind, and but I remember we worked in tobacco a lot.
Yeah.
Certain summers, we were suckering one time. I think that might have been Greg included in on that too.
Yeah, he did.
He was.
Yeah.
But him and James would like to play hooky if they could.
I remember going out in them fields on Central Avenue.
Yeah.
You remember who was the hardest to pick peaches that time? You remember?
I don't remember that.
Out there on Central Avenue, that peach.
That's a itchy job.
Yeah, we picked peaches.
Peaches is itchy.
I thought y'all were in on that.
I don't think I was.
was
Y'all
not.
weren't. I thought they got everybody in the neighborhood picking peaches.
I remember one time, this wasn't a job, but our parents and Greg's parents took us all out to Pea Patch, probably in Waresboro or out off
Toward
the
Maynard,
highway.
what? Yeah, toward Maynard.
Out towards Maynard. And me, you and Greg was out there doing our best to help them out. We were all teenagers by then, high school probably.
It was green beans,
Green
wasn't it?
beans.
Pick your own, I think, one of those deals.
Yeah.
And they gave us each a bucket and expected us.
So we piled around, the three of us just piled around one bucket or maybe just the same spot. And they were moving on down other rows, they were not too far from us. So we might have been out of earshot. But they could tell, 'cause Greg was always funny as hell. Greg would get off on these crazy fantasies or something, and voices and stuff, and he'd get me and Gary to go and laughing so hard, and our parents would turn around and look at us like
On this day, he was making fun of the farmer, wasn't
the
he?
farmer that was out there talking to our parents as they picked his green beans. He's a big old man in overalls, And Greg could say something. Bonsoir, fatso. Bonsoir,
That's all.
Yeah,
That farmer's running around,
It's
yeah.
silly as hell. but you'd have to been there.
You know the funny
It
thing,
wouldn't crack us up, though. Greg could crack us up.
Greg could crack us up.
Greg's famous rolling block. We all figured it out, and it didn't work on us.
It's like Gary said,
We
you
could jump
just
over,
step
but,
over.
but everybody else that showed up out there had never seen it before. It just flipped them.
Greg was
I've seen
bigger than
people's
most
legs
of
go
us.
up and turn
He
up.
could have blocked us.
Yeah.
Standard stand-up block.
How far out would he start the roll?
It was pretty.
About 5 feet from him.
Telegraph it way early.
I mean,
All we
it
had to do
was a total roll.
ball carrier, just wait till he went into the roll and just jump over it.
Yeah, and it worked if you had never seen it coming.
And talking about these trench coats, some days we'd be playing in the pasture and it'd be cold weather. Well, Greg had something similar to this. We called them car coats.
Yeah.
He had one of them old gray car coats.
Yeah.
They were big and bulky, and hey, we were little 8, 9, 10-year-old boys. It was gray and big and bulky, and it went all the way down to your knees, you know. And it was similar to a trench coat, I guess, but it was more of a conventional winter coat, gray and fuzzy, whatever it was made out of. It almost had like a double breast. It'd have a row of buttons down here with these straps, and button the strap over on the other breast, you know.
Yeah.
They had about 5 of those up and down. We had them too.
Yeah, we
Remember
had
that
car
picture of
coats.
Santa Claus that
Yeah.
we were all in when we
Yeah,
were.
but I don't think our parents made us wear them to the football pasture.
Greg, Big Joe must have told Greg, "Don't you take this coat off? It's cold out
Because
there."
it was cold back in them days.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
winters was cold when we was young.
I can still see him in that gray coat rolling almost like a bowling ball, you know.
It was a perfect roll, though. It was like
Yeah, it was a big roll.
he would hold his body like and roll. You know?
I give him credits for the roll.
Yeah.
It was well done, but he never blocked anybody.
Well, he couldn't us because we seen it coming, but he could put the Birch brothers on the ground in a heartbeat because they didn't see it. Because they don't remember that, of course.
After about 3 or 4 years of us playing 3-on-3, three-man football, it was always me, Dave, and James
Right.
against Ray, Greg, and Johnny.
Yeah.
We started getting good. So then
We put a
we
one
were
team
about
together. All
13,
six of us,
14 years old. We would stand off against other neighborhood teams, you
who
know.
never won.
Then
Everybody.
we had six on a team,
we
or
had a
sometimes
mighty team
even
at
more.
that point.
Yeah.
When Tom
We had
Freeman or
speed
somebody
and
would come
we had
in.
speed and
Well, we knew the field.
heft.
If James wanted us to be in the corner, we were in the corner. Nobody could beat you on your
Yeah,
field.
James was always quarterback,
Yeah.
and I don't remember what much I did. I could probably catch a ball pretty good.
You did. You sure did. We
Yeah.
won.
You also caught an
I
elbow
don't
one
remember
time.
us.
That was a thumb.
I don't remember us
thumb.
losing, but
Oh, James, it was Gary's elbow knocked you out, wasn't it?
That's right. I swung around there and hit Dave with my knuckle. My knuckle hurt for 6 months.
Got me in the eye. I went down like Joe Frazier.
Down went Frazier.
And
Here's
Greg
what
broke my
happened.
collarbone.
by the time we were 16, 17, playing without pads or helmets,
Yeah.
every game somebody would get hurt.
Yeah,
A
Greg broke
broken
my
bone.
collarbone. You know,
That's right.
I'm the only one that escaped serious injury.
I remember Rickerson hit that fence post at the very deep back corner back there and busted his knee wide open. You remember that?
I remember
I thought
somebody
that
did.
was at Reed's
Rickerson.
pasture.
That was
but
Rickerson, though. And Bob Cannon claimed he got knocked out, but I think he was faking it.
Yeah.
He fainted, and
Yeah.
we said, "Well, call 911." Then he was,
yeah.
oh man.
But now the
was waking up.
Marine did get his leg broke. That you tried to claim his leg was out of joint.
He said,
James had him holding that fence, that post at the shoulder.
he
James
said,
ever pulling the man's broke leg.
He said, "It's only jammed. Y'all got to pull it."
He was the one that wanted us to pull
yeah,
it.
we pulled it out there on the field. We we migrated up there to the
Shelter.
no, we went to the sliding board
Slide.
first.
Okay.
And he held on and said, y'all jerk it. And we took turns jerking on his leg. And then we went on up to the shelter where he stretched out around a support post. And lo and behold, he was supposed to go in the Marines like the next day or two.
Right.
But
It was broke.
it was broke.
It probably would have broke more by your pull.
No doubt.
No, I wasn't the only one that pulled it. I'd pull on it and he'd say, y'all don't quit because it was hurting him more. It'll go back in socket. It'll get back into socket.
Well, he picked the right
Yeah.
field to go into. It's only a Marine could have took that.
Who was that guy, or who brought him over there?
He only came one time with somebody. I don't know.
Well, let's go ahead to the tale of the week. And normally I'll read one from my story, but we're going to hear from the real rider in this
Hey.
gang.
I'm gonna make me another drink.
Huh?
We'll take.
Well, we'll just take a little short break then
We can bring. I'm gonna,
and be right back.
if we're gonna finish talking, I'm gonna make another drink.
Something in my brain won't let me stray. Something in my veins gonna find its way. Something in the water taught me how to pray. When that cold black water finds its way into your veins, you'll never be the same.
Well, folks, we are back. And as we said before, we're going to do a little tale of the week. And as I was saying, the real rider is in the room. And
But you wrote for Lines and Shatters, and I never did.
I did write for Lines and Shadows.
Mass media.
And the
back
Gator
in-
Gab.
Back in high school, but I was always following in my brother's footsteps.
I don't
And
think so.
they was big shoes to fill.
He was the pioneer.
Yep, he was the pioneer, led the way. He was the high school editor, his college editor at Red and Black, University of Georgia. Then he started graduated, getting jobs down here, Thomasville, and then finally moved back home to Waycross and ended up the managing editor down there.
But you're a published writer. And here's the real writer.
Hey,
He led the way. He's a published writer of cocktails.
I'm a wannabe. I wish I.
Well, here's the real writer.
Here's a
over
real
here.
writer.
He
He
got
writes for
published songs
Lowry
with Lowry
Publishing Company.
Music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, Dave does too.
What are the odds? What are the odds on that? What is it? The guy's brother?
That's his brother.
Songwriting partner.
Yeah.
Was the guy's brother?
Larry King still was confused, wasn't he?
Well, amazing as it seems that Doghill did turn out some writers. I think we can all agree
Well,
on that. But
You live on
For this
Doghill,
time-
you got to write something.
for this special Doghill episode, we're going to let Gary take the tale of the week.
This is more or less history lesson on the Doghill Gang and a tribute to Greg Slick Griffin.
There he is.
Amen.
On July 25th, Greg Griffin departed for greener pastures. 40 days later, the Georgia Bulldogs kicked off the 2022 football season with an extremely good shot at repeating as national champions. I'm so sorry that Greg won't be here to enjoy the thrill. He certainly did love the 2021 championship ride. Shoot, Greg loved all the Bulldog teams down through the past 40 or more football seasons. The good ones, the bad ones, mediocre. Note, they were nearly all good or great. Very few were mediocre. And I guess Greg regarded that not one single season was what you'd call a bad one. But while we who remain live and die by the ebbs and flows of mailman Stetson Bennett and his Athens buddies, Greg is living something so much larger. I don't know if there's football in heaven. I rather believe there is. If God grants us the desires of our heart here in God's kingdom on earth, why would he not? And even more so in the land where time is no more and where we'll never grow old. Whatever, if there's no football in heaven, there'll be something so much better. Football was probably our most favorite hobby, pastime, coming of age occupation, growing up on Dog Hill. Dog Hill was our neighborhood on Mount Pleasant Road, Waycross, Georgia. Our gang, the Doghill Gang, consisted of Greg Slick Griffin,
There he is.
James Cocke, Ray Herrin, Johnny Bennett, and my brother Dave Griffin and I. James lived next door to us Griffins, and Greg's house was directly across the road from James's. We lived on the peak of Dog Hill. Ray's house was only a couple of doors west of Greg's. Johnny's family lived a little bit further down the summit. There were others, the Thornton brothers, Wayne Williams, Dean Oxford, our cousin Stan Cheshire,
Yes, sir.
James's brother Wayne,
There we go.
Ray's brother Arnie, Greg's brother Joey, and a couple of others come to mind. But our six was a tight knot of friendship. Stanley Cheshire and Wayne Cocke were enough older than us that they didn't qualify. The same for Joey and Arnie. Wayne Williams and the Thornton boys and Dean Oxford were in and out, so to speak, of our circle, and that disqualified them from being bona fide Dog Hill
That's
gangers.
right. That's right.
Then there were the Dog Hill girls,
There were.
pretty as pictures and just as appealing as speckled bird dog puppies. We dreamed about being more than just friends with some of them. But then again, they were almost more like sisters, almost, than friends. They were Dog Hill kin, the same way we guys were Dog Hill brethren. We were all shaped by the culture of the 1960s and by other forces which have affected all generations down through time. We had our music, movies, baseball, basketball, cars, the burger chef, and more, enjoying together the whirl and blur of the experience as it molded our growing psyches. Two, there were alcohol and other forbidden intoxicants,
There we go.
Playboy magazine included. And we were into these ahead of schedule, ahead of the norm. Then again, we were more mature, a cut above the norm for young'uns of our age. We truly were. Maybe that's why we were able to weather life so far and live through it. I will qualify that by mentioning that Johnny didn't quite live through it. He's been gone for years. Greg, on the other hand, lived through it. He and we who survive are all being 70 years old, roughly. That qualifies us to claim cause of death, old age, no matter how we
There we
will
go.
wind up going. Greg had medical issues. If he'd had better doctrine, he'd still be here. But what does that matter now? Anyway, he's waiting for us all in glory. What could be finer than that? I reckon that football was the main constant in our lives back then, and today as well. Watching college and NFL games on the tube and listening to Larry Munson on the radio, those were huge. Waiting for Paul Robinson's Journal-Herald High School football preview to be delivered by the paper boy was a sacred ritual. From about age 9 through about 18, no kidding, we played sandlot football in James's back pasture. It was a passion with us. Most Saturdays it would be me, Dave, and James versus Greg, Ray, and Johnny. 3-man football, tackle, no pads, no helmets. Two-hand touch was for sissies. We practiced, we played, we honed our craft. We became pretty good. As we grew up, we began to take on teams from other neighborhoods. We normally won. In fact, in my memory, we turned back every single challenge. Sam and Bob Birch, who 12 years later, when they were age 30, opened up the Birch Brothers weightlifting gym, brought their neighborhood team into our territory. J.F. Lott's Memorial Football Pasture.
Here's Big Granny.
Mr. Lott's. That was James's granddaddy. Big Granny.
Fertilizer salesman.
Fertilizer salesman who founded the Doghill neighborhood. We were really like boys against men that afternoon against the Birch Brothers weightlifters.
They was big boys.
They were big boys and they wore brogan boots while we played barefooted. But Doghill prevailed in a close game. It was a great triumph. Mm-hmm. My cousin Larry Wiles, Clarence Gooden, Greg McGahee, and company visited for a match. We were victorious over the Williams Heights team that day, and a month later on their turf, Bit Tanner Field, in a rematch. Mm-hmm. Gilchrist Park's team, Sam Hanley and Greg Haynes among them, proved to be a worthy adversary, but Doghill won. Winona Park, featuring Charles Corbett and Larry Ricketson, went down in a fiery blaze. Sunnyside brought in their team, which fought hard to no avail. A half dozen of Hebbardville's finest, Frank Bristow, Doug Branch, and Virgil Huggins included. They tried us. Their best effort ended in disappointment, but they got over it with the healing passage of time. Doghill's geographical rival, the Reed's Pasture Gang, could never solve the Doghill run-pass option. Al O'Quinn, Bob Cannon, Johnny Highsmith, they were game fighters. They earned the respect of Doghill. They just wound up on the wrong end of the scoreboard.
There we go.
We absolutely loved the sport, but tackle football with no safety equipment led to stitches, splints, casts, and medical treatment, especially when we grew into young high school bucks. We eventually quit playing, or maybe we just grew up and moved out and moved on, most of us to college, then the military. Greg Slick Griffin, he went straight from high school to a corporate world career and moved to Atlanta. He made the drive back home to Doghill on weekends, wearing coat and tie and sporting a man perm haircut, much in the style of Paul McCartney.
Look at there.
I guess that's when we started calling our city slicker buddy Slick.
He was.
Greg and the rest of us had our youthful travels, but we've spent most of our adulthood back here in Waycross. Ray even still lives on Doghill. I say adulthood, that's a funny word, because in every way, I think my Doghill brothers will agree, we've still yet to grow up into that stage that's marked by responsibility. Even though we're roughly 70 years old now, we might cast
70
that
years.
responsible image to others, or at least try to, but it's just a facade. We're still having way too much fun to even consider growing up. We'll see you later, sooner or later, Greg. Meantime, keep sharp. Tighten up your game now that you have your immortal resurrected body.
Rolling block.
Practice your rolling body block there, buddy.
Son, I'm telling you.
You and Johnny Bennett best brush up on the old speed sweep because the rest of Doghill's are coming.
Amen.
I guarantee you, if they got football in heaven, Greg's the top body block roller right now.
No doubt.
Greg would start 15 foot out on you.
that was
His whole
awesome.
body be rolling.
That was an awesome tribute.
That
And
was awesome, Tick.
And if you didn't see it coming, it would put you down.
Folks, that is a surefire synopsis of how we grew up right there. And it was a glorious tribute to our dear Doghill buddy,
It was so
Gregory
important.
Wayne Griffin, who just passed away
Man, I tell
earlier this year.
No better friend.
I sure wish he could have been in on this.
He was a fine man. That's us in 1998.
Old Griff, look at him there.
That's all five of us.
That's Slick on the far right.
Old Griffer.
That's James Sharky Cocke on the left, Gary Tick Griffin, Billy Ray Herrin,
Bird leg.
myself, and Greg Slick Griffin.
They called me Bird leg.
In
You know why they called me Great White Herring, don't you?
1998.
In junior baseball, did you ever know why? Because Mama bleached my uniform. You remember?
Number 5.
I was standing out there with a damn white uniform. Everybody else had a red uniform because Mama thought bleach cured everything.
Dark flannel one.
So they started calling me the Great White Heron because my uniform's white.
And once they got the great white hair and the bird analogy, well, they just looked at his legs and said bird legs.
You know, as far as music, Doghill music, some of y'all rode that tide and still riding it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us others never did, and that, I guess, including Greg. But you know, I was thinking, it takes a good music appreciator to make the circuit.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
why have musicians if you don't have an audience? Is what I'm driving at.
Recently, I would call up old Slick, and he'd be listening to the Moody Blues. I mean, he never stopped listening to
He
the
loved it,
old.
buddy. He
To
loved
James's
music,
point,
buddy.
that's my point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
I know it.
we loved music, and as we've already talked about tonight,
Yeah, no doubt.
we grew up from Patty Page and Tennessee Ernie Ford, Perry Como, Pat Boone, Elvis, and then going forward to the Beatles and everybody else. And I wanted to say, Greg loved music. I don't know why. We always kind of sort of seemed like we were kind of pranking Greg, but I can remember Christmas time, we might have bought a present. Think about those little 45s for our friends. Well, we gave Greg a copy of the Royal Guardsman Snoopy and the Red Baron's
Baron.
Christmas. Or, you remember that? You remember that single?
Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing. I don't remember giving him that.
It was called Christmas Bells or something like that.
I remember that one.
Snoopy and the Red Baron on Christmas Eve, they instead of doing battle, dogfighting in the sky, they landed,
Right.
popped a cork, and drank a toast.
Yeah.
Then they went back to the war.
Yeah.
Well, you and I, Dave, gave it to Greg on Christmas Eve night in our bedroom, it seems like.
Yeah.
We gave it to him and he unwrapped it and we started snickering right away. And Greg almost got emotional. He said, I really like this. I really like this.
Wait,
He's like, I don't know what to say, boys.
That would have been about
Thank you.
65 or
Royal
66.
Guardsman. Was the name of the band.
That was Greg. He was
Yeah.
he was tenderhearted.
Yeah,
he
he
was,
was.
and he appreciated
Oh,
a good friendship, and
Yeah.
there wasn't a better friend, coming from his direction to you.
All right.
If you had him for
Absolutely.
a friend, then you couldn't get a better friend.
That's right.
And that's Greg Slick Griffin.
Yep.
We miss him terribly. We're gonna miss him
Yeah, I know
terribly,
it.
but he's left behind his dear wife Judy, who loaned us some of his treasured Georgia Bulldog shirt and hat and the old trench coat that we all came known to be synonymous with to us. She also gave me something that I'm going to give to James now, and I know he's talked about it with her, but this was a special keepsake that she wanted James to have, and this is Greg's Georgia Bulldog keychain. And
Well, he's an Alabama fan, though. What are you doing?
He'll flush that.
I'm going to give this to the Alabama fan,
I thank you.
and there's a little holder for it.
And
Now you got to be at least some Georgia fan, at least.
well, let me say it like this:
Okay.
of all the Bulldog friends I've had, Greg has always been the most genuine,
Okay.
and he's just been Greg.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say this about Judy, and I hope she don't mind me saying this, but in a recent conversation with her, we knew Greg was going down, and
Right.
and she said, "I know how he's looked after me all these years," and so when he started falling and stumbling and just
Right.
health got him down, she said, I went and bought some of them TV trays to put over his bed. She said, because I would never put him in a nursing home.
How about
She
that?
said, I was going to take care of him just like he's always taking care of me. And so I'm so glad that Greg had a good wife because he deserved it.
Sure.
I really believe that.
Amen.
Okay.
He has had a good wife. And I'm not saying that lightly. Judy has been a devoted wife
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
him.
I believe that
And,
too.
she's
Well, even in death, Greg was taking care of her because I think James told me this story.
Yeah, Judy said, when he passed, it was so sudden. They went down to Jacksonville and it was just over, really, so sudden. And she said, I didn't know what I was going to do with Social Security, insurance, all the things that a spouse is
Right.
left to deal with. And she said, I went in there to a drawer where we kept all our papers and stuff. And she said, I do not know when he did this, but on the top of all the paperwork was a note, and it said, this is what you do. And it was step by step how to handle this situation when I'm gone. And she said, so even in death, he was looking after her.
How about that?
How about that?
That's our boy.
I didn't know he was in that bad a shape myself.
Yep,
Never
it
knew.
was a
just
sad.
It came rather quickly.
And I firmly believe this, and I hate to say it on such a bad note, but if he had better physicians here,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have been this situation.
That's true.
They found out what was really wrong with him after he done went so far down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the doctor actually told him when they got down to Jacksonville, said, Mr. Griffin, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, and you're going to throw that walker away, and you're going to live a long and normal life. But because he had, I hate to say it, such poor quality health around here,
Just misdiagnosed.
misdiagnosed, that it cost him his life.
Damn.
Yeah.
Well, the same with Arnie.
Yeah.
My brother, I'm telling you, if he had different doctors, he wouldn't have died 68 years old. And there's other examples of that,
How old was Arnie?
68, and I tried my best to get him changed doctors. And,
Right.
But that's just, it happens around here.
See, we've outlived him going
Yeah.
on 5 years,
Yeah.
all of us.
Well, I sure hate to end it on this because Greg was such a deserving person that he deserved better,
Yeah, I know it.
but he always had a smile on his face.
He was great.
I know it.
We loved him.
We sure did. Well, folks, it's been a very good episode for
Yeah.
me, particularly personally, and
Yeah.
I hope that y'all have enjoyed it. We've gone back down through the passage of time and talked about all of our lives growing up together on Doghill. And we'd like to say thank you for watching and hope that you'll tune in again.
Yeah.
And on behalf of the Doghill Gang,
Peace out.
love you, Greg.
When the cold black water finds its way across through your veins, it just might seal your fate. it just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate.